He was part of the CIA's STARGATE program, learning to project his consciousness across vast distances, accessing information in ways that defy logic.
When the remote viewing practice was exposed as an intelligence collection methodology tied to the CIA and the DIA, Stanford Research Institute International, it gave it credibility. It served the nation for nearly 3 decades, and in my opinion, still serves the nation.
Is there a target that remote viewers are forbidden from accessing?
No.
So a remote viewer can access anything?
Yes.
If you could train one historical figure in remote viewing, who would it be?
Oh, that's an interesting one. This is gonna sound really weird.
Do you think ancient civilizations utilized remote viewing?
Ever since I wrote my goals down with the pen, my dreams and reality have both been blending in. I just hope that in the end, my debt don't extend me on my dividends. If it did, I'd have to...
For decades, it remained one of the US government's strangest, most controversial projects, a Cold War era experiment in psychic espionage. STARGATE aimed to weaponize the mind itself. In the 70s and 80s, while satellites scanned enemy terrain and spies worked in the shadows, another unit operated in the unseen, a small, highly trained group of military personnel tasked with seeing beyond time and space, not with drones or satellites, but with their minds. One of those men was David Morehouse, an Army intelligence officer, and he claims that a freak accident, being struck in the head by a bullet, unlocked a hidden ability within him: remote viewing. He was part of the CIA's STARGATE program, learning to project his consciousness across vast distances, accessing information in ways that defy logic. But his journey took a sharp turn when he chose to go public, exposing what he says are secrets about human potential that the government might not want you to know.
Circa 1969 and 70, there developed a great swirl of interest in parapsychology for the USSR, Czechoslovakia, China, and they were all approaching it in different ways. Part of what kind of prompted that is that there was a World War II resistance spy who was now a journalist who wrote an article in a French magazine that talked about an alleged experiment happening with J.B. Rind and others, and the Zinner cards. You know what those are?
No.
Remember back to Ghostbusters in the opening scene where Bill Murray is taking a card of wavy lines and holding it up to his head.
Yeah.
And then he has the 2 people, the cute girl and the guy chewing bubble gum.
Yeah.
And if he goes to the guy chewing bubble gum and it's wavy lines and he goes, "A circle." And he goes, "No." And he shocks him, right? So he goes to the girl and she says, "A square." And he goes, "You're absolutely right," when it was just wavy lines. It's just a funny anecdote about it. That's what Zinner cards were. They have these symbols on them. And they would be selected, and I would hold up a Zinner card. I would look at it and go, "What is it?" You can't see it from this side, right? So you would have to say what it is. And then they would calculate the scores. The idea in this experiment allegedly was that there was an individual on the USS Nautilus on the bottom under the polar ice cap in the north. And this experiment with J.B. Ryan was being conducted, and that the statistical relevance of the positives were something in excess of 70%. That was written up in the article. That caused the Chinese and the Soviets to light on fire. Why? Was part of it disinformation, since the navies denied it ever took place? And so there are no official documents that state that it ever took place, the experiment. But it lit them on fire. It lit them on fire because it's a Cold War era mentality. You cannot, it's a gamble as another country in the Cold War, as another superpower in the Cold War. So they all started pumping money and research and assets and people and time into determining if there was anything to clairvoyance or ESP, psychic abilities, psychokinesis, anything. They were looking at it all. But as that bubbles up, and as it bubbles up in China, who they were looking for young children who were clairvoyant or had a stated clairvoyant ability. And both what they wanted to do is harvest, scrape them out of the population, set them aside, train them, build them, strengthen them, and then use them in some capacity. As that started happening and the CIA saw it building, the CIA jumps on the bandwagon as well. And so 69 and in 70, they're researching it, and it is their duty and their obligation, if they are aware of adversarial interest in a particular thing, it's their obligation to try to match it and exceed it, develop it, and utilize it in some capacity. They set out and they hired Stanford Research Institute International. Used to be part of Stanford, but it was separated as its independent research agency. They utilized them in a sole source contract to explore and answer several questions. Call them deliverables. I'll go through them quickly. First one, prove scientifically, beyond a reasonable doubt, as absolute as you can be, is there an ability within a human being to see distant in space-time? Clairvoyance, ESP, we don't care what you call it. Is that capability there? Yes or no? The next deliverable was, if you prove that it is, and we agree with your science, can you tell us the traits that we need to look for in the populace so that we can find and scrape human beings out of the populace that we can bring, set aside, train, and utilize for intelligence collection methodologies, or maybe something else, right? And that's where that all started. There was a third deliverable, and the third deliverable is if you prove it, and if you can tell us who to look for, can you replicate it? Meaning, can you build a training protocol so that we can train other people to do it precisely so we get identical data collection, which helps us in the analysis of it. We don't want 85 different versions of ESP playing a role in this. We want a training program for it. They proved number one, and then the CIA sent different science agencies to audit their science. But it stood the test. So number one, can you prove that there is a human ability? It was proven. Laser physicists, mathematicians, psychologists, psychiatrists, men and women of letters, 18 of them. They even published in the IEEE, March 1976. Okay? What some of their findings were. The next thing that happens is, can you tell us? Now listen to this. Can you tell us what the traits are? And they came back. This team of physicists and other men of science and women came back and said, yeah, what we found is that this is not an ability unique to anybody. Actually, it's in everybody. It's inherent to every human being, and it seems to be bestowed upon them at birth. In other words, it's part of the DNA, or it's part of some unexplained and unknown thing like a soul that is within them, but the ability is there, right? That's a poignant finding, right?
Yeah.
So skeptics don't like to embrace that or talk about it, but this was a program of tens of millions of dollars being spent on it with most credible scientists that you could find at the time to study it and prove it, and that's what they came up with. Every skeptic should just shut their mouth and move away on the subject, right?
I mean, we've seen this in your classes, in my classes, in the ones that I've gone to as a guest, that, people come from all walks of life and then they leave being able to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what they didn't do is they couldn't come up with a training protocol. Enter one of the test subjects, Ingo Swann.
Oh, they were not able to do a training protocol.
Now,
okay.
What do a bunch of physicists and psychologists and
Yeah.
psychiatrists know about developing a military training program?
Right.
Absolutely zero. They're still frustrated and angry about the fact that they couldn't, and the program just moved on without them. They say disparaging things about the program, but it's just red-faced embarrassment about the fact that, come to grips with it, guys. Most of them weren't educators anyway. They were scientists, experimenters. They calculated data, correlated data, wrote reports on the data,
right.
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think anybody anticipated how difficult it would be to expect that body of learned individuals to actually build a military training program. So Ingo Swann, who was one of the test subjects, is brought in by 2-star General Bert Stubblebine and the 3-star general over him, Mike Thompson, and they are in CIA oversight, and they take Ingo Swann's protocols for coordinate remote viewing, which are dogmatic driven, protocol driven. They are absolute in how they're, put together. And if you follow those protocols, data is extracted in a broad spectrum of ways through every person that's trained in it. But you could have 20 people do it, 70 people do it. And the intelligence product could be this much for one person, that much for another, this one much for that. Thousands of data points that now are all correlated and analyzed, sketches matched, etc., to build a profile of what the collection effort was.
Really quick before we get into the episode, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Quantum Upgraded. This is an incredible service that I barely can even fathom and explain to you, but I'm going to try. Because what is happening is when you sign up, Quantum Upgrade can literally project a frequency onto you, and you can choose what you want, whether it's better health, more testosterone, peace of mind, sleep, calmness, abundance, prosperity, you name it. They have a frequency for it. Right now, I have the frequency of focus because I'm getting ready to go in depth with David and do this interview, and I want to make sure that I'm focused and prepared. So if you're curious about how this even works and you want to try the service or experience these frequencies for yourself, go to quantumupgrade.io, code Frankly, and you will get 14 days of a free trial.
That is, once that was all trained and the first series of viewers were pulled together, remote viewers were pulled together, they're originally housed at INSCOM, the Intelligence Support Command, which is close to Arlington National Cemetery. When INSCOM had to give it up, it was homeless. So it was some other places, but it got picked up by the Defense Intelligence Agency in Bolling Air Force Base in the DC area. And it was housed under the Directorate of Technology and Science, DT-S, so DIA DT-S. It was a PhD by the name of Dr. Jack Verona, who was the lead scientist of the Defense Intelligence Agency, was the guy who owned it. And then they chose a program manager, was a GS-15. There were other program managers, one of them being an Army lieutenant colonel at one time. And they assembled the viewers, and they assembled civilians, DOD and DA, Department of Army civilians, into this little building at Fort Meade, Maryland.
How many people?
Well, originally, the number changes sometimes. Probably, let's just say 10.
Okay. Oh, small.
Yeah.
Are you in that group?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm a airborne company commander in Panama.
Okay.
Commanding the Army's only separate airborne rifle company. Then I go from there to be a company commander in 1st Ranger Battalion.
Oh, so you're still in your entire military career while this Stargate program is getting created.
I knew nothing about it.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing about it.
Okay.
I had no psychic bone in me. I wouldn't even have entertained it if you came to me and said, "Hey, do you think you can see around the corner on something?" Now they actually, combat veterans call it spidey sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And police officers call it spidey sense as well, or cop's intuition, or a gut feeling, or something else. But I had none of that, right? None of it at all. We could do an entire episode of where I saw myself in my life and my relationship with the Creator and other things at that point, because that's kind of a harrowing, disappointing outcome of somebody who was a high priest in the Mormon church at the time.
Were you?
Yes.
And I have a huge, oh my God.
I knew I shouldn't have told you.
No, I'm glad you did, honestly, because look, a lot of the stuff you're saying, even though I love it, it might be new for obviously the audience, but I've heard you say it on podcasts, especially as I was preparing for this. So I love that because that feels new to me. And it's also very interesting because the modality that originally even showed me that I was a healer, like now it's gone so much further in what I do and who I've learned with and what I've activated by not sticking to a modality and freeing myself from the limitations of a modality. But he was a Mormon chiropractor, Dr. Bradley Nelson, who I've had on the show. He did the emotion code and the body code, which Tony Robbins, who I know you've mentioned, he credits it to helping save his marriage. And but the guy's Mormon, and yet he's doing this like crazy energy work, which is so not Mormon, but it's incredible to me to see how something like remote viewing or something in any kind of form of that, right? Like I've seen a woman bend a spoon with her mind in Germany in one of the classes that I was in. I mean, these people start changing their whole relationship with, like you just said, creator and what it all means. And it's almost like an unraveling occurs.
Yeah.
So I actually kind of want to talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind, before we get back into the story. What was that unraveling for you?
Well, the unraveling for me, what, in being a high priest, or?
From being a high priest to then like learning remote viewing, what the mind is capable of, who we are, our human potential. Did that do anything for you? Did that change anything?
No.
Okay.
Because I began to feel very hypocritical about my relationship with God, and I was just speaking the pablum that the church wanted me to speak as a leader at a stake level and as an award level in the bishopric and a stake presidency. I was not a bishop nor a stake president. I was a counselor, and those are three men that hold those positions. And I was grateful for the position, but I never heard the word of God. I never received revelation for myself, for my family, or certainly for the congregation. And when we started to enter into the more mundane tasks of running the business of a church, which it is, I don't care what church, it's a business. And we would sit down as a bishopric as an example, and the bishop would say to me, look, we're not making our nut at the end of the month here for several months. So we need to do an assessment, meaning we now need to go to the tithe payers in the congregation, sit them down, and we need to ask for more money. That part I get, sort of, kind of, because where I really was with it is, well, and I asked the question, because that way, well, what's going on in Salt Lake? I mean, if all the tithing is being, pushed to Salt Lake City, and it's there in the church headquarters building, if there are congregations, there are wards that are not able to make ends meet with the number of tithe payers that they have, why are they not subsidizing that? Now, I mean, everybody's probably just rolling your eyes at this point and going like, but you asked me the question.
Yeah.
Where was I and what was happening?
Yeah.
These are the kinds of things I was processing. I couldn't sit down next to a guy who was an architect who I knew, right, socially, and say, in the bishopric, we prayed and we received revelation, from God that we want to assess you $20,000 extra. I couldn't do it. I mean, it came out of my mouth, but then I just looked at him and went, no, don't even listen to that.
Wow.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I even asked you.
Yeah.
Because first of all, we didn't pray about it. And I certainly know we didn't receive any revelation.
Right.
It was an accounting decision.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm starting to think my relationship is with the church bureaucracy, the church business. And I got into this because I wanted to be a scriptural scholar. I wanted to understand, the history of the church and other churches. I wanted to understand where my purpose was in that and my callings were in that. I wanted to expand my relationship with the Creator by whatever name anybody wants to call them. But that's what I wanted. I needed that spiritual feed. And I was in a barren desert going through the mechanics of being a businessman, sitting at the front of a congregation and looking out at faces. I felt a failure and a hypocrite in all of it. But that was happening clear back in Savannah, Georgia, as a Ranger Company commander. I go to the Kingdom of Jordan. My company is selected by the regimental commander, the Ranger Regimental Commander, to go to the kingdom, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. And it's 1986, thereabouts. And I've been plussed up. I got about 270 Rangers. Heck, I'm half a battalion commander now, right? I have them over there, and we are training a Jordanian battalion, a Ranger battalion. On a training exercise, not combat, I get zinged in the helmet by a M60 machine gun round fired from a Jordanian who was a Jordanian soldier who was with my machine gun squads. I was evaluating a lieutenant. You don't need to know all those details, but it knocks me off my feet and knocks me out. It's 2,832 feet per second.
Wow.
And when it hits your Kevlar, if it doesn't go in it, like if I had the old steel pots on,
It would have went through.
it would have gone, yeah, I wouldn't be here. So the Kevlar, based on the angle it hit, caught it in the layers, right? So it caught it in the layers, but it like jerked me back and took me off my feet. It didn't ricochet. It had a direct hit and all the kinetic energy passed to me. When I was in that condition, I had a sense of being in open sunlight, still in the environment where I was when it happened, like meaning in the desert, kind of, sort of. And then this figure, like a Yoda, is present.
Are you a healing practitioner who is stuck in a job that drains your soul? Or maybe you are currently practicing but struggling to find the right clients and be seen? Well, in my online course, Awaken the Healer Within, I will show you how to ditch imposter syndrome. Awaken your spiritual gifts using real, ancient, Vedic, and Egyptian techniques, and all at the same time build a prosperous business with soul-aligned clients who want to pay you. I'll show you the exact strategy that took me from 4-time Emmy Award-winning journalist to healing practitioner making 6 figures. Plus, there's a weekly coaching call so that I am guiding you every step of the way. Now, if you're ready to turn your purpose into prosperity, just visit awakenedhealers.com/join.
Maybe that's conscious mind analyzing it, right? And truly, I may have created it that way. In the lexicon of remote viewing, it's called analytical overlay. So raw pure viewing data comes in, signal line attachment there. But what's important is not the image. I'm just honestly telling you what it was.
It's giving you an image based on how you can interpret it, maybe, but
exactly.
it's more
based
about
on your experience.
The information is what's important, right?
Right.
So what was the information?
The information was that I had chosen the wrong path in life, and I was supposed to choose a new path in life, a path that would honor my purpose and my callings, where I could express passion in those things. Well, that's pretty damn confounding for a guy who has efficiency reports that says destined to wear stars, will be chief of staff of our army one day, because that was the path that I was on. That was good. I thought it, and because I was good at it, because my father was an army officer, my grandfather was an army officer, my son is now a command sergeant major in the army. I thought that if I'm good at this, this must be my purpose. It must be, and my callings that I have, my tools, my understanding of everything I'm asked to do here that I apply to this purpose, all seem to fit and be well. It's where I learned years later that just because you do something well does not mean that you're doing it on purpose. That's hard. People really quibble with that statement. You have to give some time to think about it. I, 6 months later, change over my command because I didn't share that vision with my Rangers.
Right, yeah.
I mean, pretty much you get a hangnail. They will replace you with a new company commander who's waiting in the wings that doesn't have a hangnail.
Yeah.
So if you get injured, you're gone, and a new guy comes in. It's just because of the op tempo and the mission of the Rangers. So 6 months later, I change command, and I go into the Department of the Army Special Access roster, into my first highly classified Special Access program. And it was codenamed Royal Cape. It's also called The Activity. There's a book that was written by a retired British intelligence officer, maybe now a journalist, wrote this book called Killer Elite. The inside story of America's most secret special operations unit. That was Royal Cape. So I'm in there now as the stack faction control officer and a deputy executive officer under a lieutenant colonel by the name of Lurie. And I'm in that thing, and it's a weird place to be. Because it's a weird place to be, because it's the secret army of Northern Virginia, because, a book's been written about it, not at that time, but since. Yeah, and it exposes everything accurately, what was going on there when I was there.
Really?
Yeah. It's an interesting book.
So what were some of the, like, to get to really the core of it, what were some of the big things going on in there?
Let me just say it this way.
Or the weird things?
Let me say it this way, because it's still a highly classified unit.
Yeah.
And it does good work. But the whole purpose of the unit is to conduct and build support infrastructure to conduct clandestine operations, covert operations in tier 1 and tier 2 countries. Okay. We could talk differently if you had another 2 hours to talk about
What
it.
tier 1 and tier 2 basically means not a third world country?
Yeah, no, it means real or perceived adversary of the United States.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Either actually or potentially.
But just so, I
Very
mean,
high on the
like, to
list.
give the viewer something, like, what kinds of things are we talking? Is it like the remote viewing, remote
Well, I'll
spying?
give you one of its early examples of
Yeah.
one of the things that really came in, why it became part of the construct of special operations community. When the students took down the U.S. Embassy in Tehran in '79, there are a lot of things that most Americans probably do not know at all. This U.S. State Department did not have any of the blueprints for the embassy. It didn't have them. They were all at the embassy. There were no duplicates of those blueprints, which meant that when a decision was made to start planning to take that embassy back and to rescue the hostages and kill those holding the hostages or risking their lives, you needed to know things that special operators need to know, like how to get in, where stairways are, up, down, doors, open this way, that way, locks on gates, all that stuff. It's a long list of things you have to know. They had no idea. They didn't know where, I mean, people were scratching their heads and giving, vague recollections of it, but they didn't know where bulletproof glass was. They didn't know anything about the doorways, hallways, where people might be, where surely they weren't, etc. Where cutoffs for lights, etc. You get where I'm going with it. Since we don't have the blueprints and we don't have any human intelligence sources on the ground, because that would be like sending, sticking your hand in whatever pisses wasps off and then, sticking it into a wasp's nest, right? Everybody would be like, you want me to go there now?
Yeah.
I mean,
I bet you a lot of my journalism colleagues went.
Well,
when I was a journalist, they'd be like, hey, everybody's running away from that thing. Go toward it.
Yeah. Ted Koppel was one of the, ended up
Ted
being.
Koppel,
Yeah.
That made his career, honestly. He was like the face of Nightline, I think, because of that situation.
Well, he was, he was collecting intelligence for the U.S. And what he was doing was, he was trusted. So he was doing interviews, and the camera, if you watch like the whole line of what happened over the 300 and some odd days, the camera angles were changing and giving different views. And he would just simply pull the subject around he was going to interview and stick the microphone in, and the cameraman is recording. And now they're looking at a different,
different vantage point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So all of that's changed. That's helping them create the models and create the other things that they can practice for the raid. Practice on for the raid. The other people that were being used during this were remote viewers, because remote viewers were able to sketch rooms and room dimensions. They were looking for where hostages were being held, where hostages were being fed, or where hostages were being interrogated. They were doing that because Ted Koppel did not have access to that. Well, that's pretty thin intel, but that's all they had. But what was going to be needed when they ran this raid was they needed to have a support infrastructure there. Collect more intel, but you're only going to see what's on the outside. But they were making relationships with witting, or in some cases unwitting, business owners to get safe houses, warehouses, trucks, medical supplies, all the other things that you would need if you were a special operations unit coming in, executing the raid, and now you needed to exfil and you had wounded like that, because you would have limited medical resources. What were we going to do if we had to disappear into Tehran for a while? All of that. What if we had a man who got broken away from the main attack element Where would they go
Mm-hmm.
to be picked up, etc.? You don't stand on a street corner, right? Hoping somebody finds you.
Right. Yeah.
Can't make a phone call. So all of that is what was done. And that was done by ISA, by Royal Cape, codenamed Orange, Task Force 121. That's what they're all called now.
Mm-hmm.
Many different names. And that was the birth of that organization and the need of that organization. It has swelled and there's some mission creep now, but they're really good at what they do. And
I mean, I'm sure they're still around, obviously, like you say, but even, Stargate, it got declassified in the 90s. Since then, people say that it's shut down. I know you've said, and other people have said, there's no way it's shut down. It was too effective. Others will say it didn't work and they shut it down. Tell me about this.
yeah, that's a good question. I always get a grin on my face. First of all, look, I love the CIA. I love our intelligence services. They keep us safe. That's their mission, their charter. People have no idea the monsters that lurk in the dark out there, and the numbers of people that would incinerate us if they had any opportunity to do it. They've done it in the past. They want to do it again. And it's not just Middle Easterners. It's not just Islam. It is all different kinds of things. That's their job, and they are really good at it. That doesn't mean they're 100% accurate. None of the intelligence services are. That's why there's multiples. But they closed it down in 96 because they knew my book, Psychic Warrior, which I hate that title, Psychic Warrior Inside the CIA Stargate Program. That's the important part of the title. I didn't give it that title.
Wait, you said this before. You hate the title. Why do you hate it?
Because I don't consider myself a psychic.
Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I don't consider myself that.
Yeah.
I didn't then, I don't now.
Okay.
I consider myself to be a human being that was gifted with all the same things that every other human being was gifted with.
And what's the subtitle?
Inside the CIA Stargate Program.
Okay, yeah. Oh, so they knew this was coming out.
They tried to stop it very aggressively. But St. Martin's Press thought, this is cool, we're going to put this out there. So St. Martin's Press had a huge law firm in New York that was standing in between. And
right, yeah.
They was like, you're not going to stop this.
Wait,
you can burn that guy who wrote this thing if you want to, but we're not going to stop
if he
the
mysteriously
publication.
disappears.
Exactly. That'll just increase book sales.
For sure, you're right.
So,
wow. But it also would make people go, oh, wow, it must have been real. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and there was a reason why I made the decision to write that book. And it wasn't for book sales. We can talk about that later or at another time. But I had a purpose in writing that book.
Well, just a quick sentence or two. What was your purpose?
My experience on my journey through the training of coordinate remote viewing and then into extended remote viewing was transformational for me. I told you that I didn't have any of these experiences that allowed me to move from belief to knowing as a member of the church, as a high priest. That there was so much other noise that the connection with spirit was absent from that. The signal line had run dark a long time earlier. And we need something, if we are going to pursue these kinds of purposes in our life, we have to move from believing to knowing that it's there.
Yeah. It's amazing that you say all this. Sorry to interrupt, but honestly, this is what I meant by when you tap into this side of you, does it bring out other awareness? I think it really does, because any astrologer even you talk to, any Vedic, anything, they'll say we're moving from belief which is the former, the Piscean age, to the Aquarian age of I know, not I believe. So Piscean, which, Jesus is always represented as the fish, and it's this beautiful symbolism, but it's belief, right? You're believing in something. Something is giving you hope again, or belief. And then from there, we're now moving into I know. What do you know?
And what do you know, and how do you know you actually know it?
Yeah.
And you're not just expanding your belief.
Exactly. Which is why I'm also really into the Gnostic texts. Have you read any of the Gnostics? Yeah, it's pretty amazing because, and I can, again, how how you and I are pretty similar in the sense that when we look at something like CIA or even the news or anything, I'm like, we can see where you're coming from, but it still doesn't make it 100% like you're doing everything, the right way or whatever, that there isn't something that is going to fall within that. Why I say that is because in the Gnostics, I think it might be Thomas or Philip, where he says You don't need the church to connect with God. Go out into the desert and commune with spirit, you know? But that is a very threatening thing, because not only does it take away power and authority from church and church figures, but it can also, there can be some psychopath who, you know, takes out his whole family and goes, well, spirit told me to do it. So they do have to also limit. I can see why they have to also not just say, hey, whatever spirit tells you is the answer, because there will be people who go, well, spirit told me to do it. You know?
Yeah, that would be devoid of intention and purpose.
Exactly.
You know, there's no discernment involved in that.
Right.
But my journey through this, I mean, I fought it because I come from science, and the only attachment I had with the remote viewing is that it too came from science. It was developed in science, taught in science, not taught well, I will say that, but it was taught that way. And I could easily refute everything that I was producing in the way of remote viewing data in stage 1 and stage 2 and stage 3 training. I mean, they would come in, pat you on the back, my trainer, Gabrielle Pettengale, and go, look how well you did on this. And I go, you know, you're saying I drew that curve with the lines on it because it was the dome of the rock. I'm saying to you, it looks a little bit like the toe of my shoe. You know, I could criticize what I was doing up to a point. What starts to happen is, as the conduits of perception open, because you're doing this work in the physical and the non-physical realm over and over and over every day. And it's not anecdotal. It is all empirical. Your data is measured. It is categorized, clumped, right? There are quantifiable, measurable attributes about what should be visible in the target site. What do you have that's there and what do you have that's not there? And so it just goes, it starts to swell. Your non-physical eyes open to new levels of perception, new levels of discernment, new levels of understanding. You're beginning to close your eyes and see things that you weren't able to see before, to perceive dimension and energetic and texture, and you're building this new language, a lexicon to take what is detected and the conscious mind then decodes so that you can objectify it in 2 dimensions on the paper as visual or verbal sensory data. Once it starts to get to the point where you're just, the empirical evidence of what you're capable of doing is overwhelming and it's irrefutable. It becomes undeniable. And once that happens, a switch flips in you. And now there is a bridge that has always been there, but somebody had the velvet ropes on it and it was closed down and you just never got it. And now all of a sudden, you know that there is something beyond the physical, that you are part of it, that you have always been part of it, that you can never not be part of it, that you can contribute to it, you can learn from it, you can interact with it. That was the most spiritual awakening, epiphany that I ever had in my life.
That's powerful. I'm actually writing that down as a reminder right now. To make sure to include that. So that's what I mean by also like your relationship with the creator, right? I mean, there's like now a direct connection that you finally feel for the first time at that point, probably.
It is. It's a connection that there's something beyond the physical. There's something far more powerful in control of all that's around us. It may manifest as God. It may manifest as every human being, every religious spiritual pursuit has all identified some headmaster, right? Some leader in that. I don't dispute any of it at this point. What I say is that your relationship has to be with the experience that you had and the knowledge that you now carry of who you are and what you are as a part of that. I mean, it changes the way you see the world. It changes the way you see your role in the world. It changes how you see your world and your relationship with other people. It is not conducive when you're not prepared for that transformative experience to continue being an Army officer. Because now your levels of discernment get to the point where you used to just stand at attention and say, yes, sir. Now you start to see that the emperor has no clothes. Now you start to see that the person before you is actually not a good leader. They just got to that position because somebody liked them. They don't know what they want. They only know what they don't want when they see it. You start to see all the flaws.
Yeah.
And as a major promotable to lieutenant colonel, that's not a good position to be in. That's a crossroads as a road guard and evaluator. You're now starting, because there's no training program for this. You see, the people in the unit who came in already with a perceived ability that they had discovered earlier and nurtured through their life, they dealt with this as they took the steps through life to get to that particular point. I had no reference for any of that, none. I had no professed ability or understanding, and I came in quite frustrated and very scientifically trying to negate what I did. And all of a sudden, boom, switches flipped. Now what happens? Okay, well, the only guy I could actually talk to about that was Mel Riley, the late Mel Riley, because he was a very spiritual guy, dealt a lot with Native American, the indigenous peoples, and he made rock medicine for me. He did all these different things and would try to help reground me back into and keep things in perspective. But there was no playbook for them. They never created, okay, when this spring breaks or is unfurled and this new person, but see, they knew that you were going to change, because the very first interview in coming into the organization, Fern Gavin, who was the program manager at GS-15, sat this close to me and said, your life is never going to be the same again. My wife at the time, sitting right there, he looked at her and said, his life is never going to be the same again after this.
Wow.
And you need to be prepared for that, because families have disintegrated here. And I'm telling you this because he's going to be trained in something unique and incredible. And it's going to change how he sees the world. It's going to change how he sees you and his children. And if you're prepared for that, then you can help that along as a team, right? Well, that just freaked her out for months. to have heard that, it really freaked her out. But now, and I was like, I don't know what that could be. How hard could it be? I've gone to Ranger School. I'm a combat
You're thinking
diver,
of it logically.
all this stuff.
Yeah.
So when it happens, now you're like, oh. And it's the event, the quickening, is amazing. But now your ability to interact in the world that you were in, when you have to go get re-greened again and go to Command and General Staff College now for a year and work on 2 master's degrees, and then after that, you're going to be a battalion XO in the 82nd Airborne Division, right? After that, you're going to be the division training officer.
Wait. This is all planned for you?
Oh, yeah, that's all put together. You're
after the remote viewing program.
After the remote viewing unit. I went to one more unit after the remote viewing unit.
Oh, so I thought once you did the remote viewing part, you stopped I don't want to say stop the military part, but that you were just in some kind of dark room visualizing what was going on in Iran and China, and that was the rest of your career.
Well, no, not at all. I only stayed there 3 years.
Okay.
And that was hard because it was
3 years is a lot, yeah. So, but I think I might have taken you off course. So you went public with what you knew. You wrote this book, Psychic Warrior.
Yeah, but years down the road.
Right, but what were the implications of that? So obviously you said they tried to stop it. What else happened?
Well, look, let's be honest. I made a decision as a professional military officer, decorated, respected, great, fantastic reviews, and, hopeful to be a general officer one day, going to be a lieutenant colonel shortly. And what do? I violate a security oath, and which is classified as dereliction of duty, wrongful disclosure of classified information. And I told a story about a classified program in order to tell my journey of transformation through that program, and the fact that I felt strongly enough about sacrificing whatever was going to be sacrificed in order to tell that story, not for personal gain or gratification, because that's not what happened, but because I wanted that to be shared to everyone needs to know that the gift is not unique to me, or you don't have to get zinged in the helmet. It's already there. You don't need a physical trauma to open it. You don't need an emotional trauma. You don't need a spiritual trauma. You just need, according to Russell Targ out of SRI when he said it, you just need to understand that the gift is there and be willing to go through whatever it's going to take to open it up. Okay? I wanted that out there in that way. I mean, I knew that the decision was going to cost me my career. I knew that the decision was, and my thoughts were, it's probably going to keep me from being a battalion commander. I was an interim battalion commander in the 82nd, but now, you know, I'm probably not going to have that happen. And I'm going to retire, you know, in 2.5 years, and that'll be fine. But it blew up. And I think that the agency, and I understand it. I get it. I don't fault them for that.
Yeah.
I might be upset with former colleagues
Right.
who dogpiled on what happened, but I understood the agency. The agency, you know, when they're talking like in 95, people need to understand it. CIA doesn't stand for Central Information Agency. It's a central, intelligence agency. And they have a protocol, a syntax. They have a script they follow. If something like that happens, like some guy writing a book about a program they have their fingers on, well, they have to follow that. They have to disengage. They have to spin the story their way. And they do so with great precision. I mean, they've had stories here and there and everywhere that said, you know, well, you know, yeah, we dabbled in it. It didn't really work very well. We only spent 20 million on it, and that kind of stuff. Well, none of that is true.
So basically, you just kind of put some doubt out there.
Yeah. I mean, you want
Which is smart.
Because, yes, precisely.
Yeah.
Because what will happen is you get 20% of the American public, who cares about the readers in the rest of the world, but 20% of the American public who then go like, oh, well, I guess we can forgive them for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what they were doing. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, that's stupid. So the book must be stupid, and the guy that wrote the book must be stupid. And then what happens, that rolls around for a little while, and then, you know, they'll pick up another 20%, you know, because it's not difficult to do, and people will jump on that and think that's truth. If the CIA is standing in front of the American people and talking to them, their job is not to keep the American public informed. Their job is to make the American public, if they are risking exposure, think what they want them to think. When's the last time you saw the CIA actually do something odd like that? I'll tell you, TWA Flight 800. Did you ever see the one that blew up?
Which one is this?
It's the one that blew up off of Long Island.
Okay.
That's
How long ago?
No, I can't remember. It was in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere there, right for it had to be like 97.
Okay.
Somewhere there in that time frame, 96, 97. There's a reason why this happened. It was not a missile, and it was not a wiring harness in a main fuel cell. We can talk another time because you won't have time to hear the whole story. But the CIA did the simulation, the crash simulation, showing all the component parts and what sparked and where. When have you ever seen the CIA do a training video for the American people? What? The National Transportation Safety Board doesn't have people that can do graphics? The CIA has to do the graphics because the CIA did the graphics because they painted the picture that they were supposed to paint. And who did they work for? Who do they work for? I mean, aside from the obvious, they serve at the pleasure of the American people, but they're appointed by somebody, the highest office of the land.
Right.
The director is appointed by the president. So they serve the president, which is serving the people. But if the president has an agenda, that agenda can get passed to the agency. You saw that happen to a past FBI director who basically engaged in subterfuge in some degree of espionage to basically overthrow a sitting president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're pro-Trump or not, that's what a director of the FBI did. Cattail here. So I don't know why we were telling on that part of the story, but
well, basically you were telling me how, because I asked you if they closed the program or not.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So did they close it entirely? They want you to believe that they did.
Yeah.
But it was a viable intelligence collection methodology. It had
So
a
just
great
for,
number of
because I think we skipped around so much for people to understand when we say viable, because I've heard you say this in other podcasts too. How viable, as in like how many cases, how many times a year were you guys, and how many agencies were you working for? Is beyond just CIA.
You're working for everything.
Yeah.
Now, it was slightly different than nowadays. They do what's called all source intelligence.
Where it just goes out to every.
So, yes,
Yeah.
whoever the customer is
Right.
that's asking for intel on X or X or X, whatever it is, the agency handling the farming out of that, it's all source. They don't pick and choose what they throw it out. Because intelligence collection methodologies, whether they are SIGINT, ELINT, FODINT, HUMINT, SCIENT, CyberInt, and the other. Back in the day, there were like these big standard 7. Now there's 30 something of them,
Wow.
like 34 different intelligence collection methodologies. Wow. None of them are 100% accurate.
Right.
None of them are. So what they all do is provide their piece of the puzzle. And then
someone's putting all that together. So someone might say the remote viewers are telling us this. These people are telling us this. How does this correlate?
They may not even know the source.
Yeah.
They just are correlating data.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And in correlating the data, the job of the analyst is to shape the answer to the customer. The analyst understands what the customer is asking for. They sourced it all out. It all comes in. Now they're trying to put square pegs in square holes. And they're trying to find round pegs, and they're trying to find the star pegs. They're trying to fill the holes to fill out the puzzle to say to the customer, here's what 34 different sources came up with. Here's the puzzle assembled now. Is it actionable or not? It may go back through the process again. Typically it does, but that's how that happens. So did they shut it down? No. You want an example? I just told you that a guy wrote a book that exposed a top secret, highly classified program, the activity, Royal Cape, right?
Right.
They didn't shut Royal Cape down.
Right, yeah.
He even wrote a sequel to the book. They didn't go shut Royal Cape down. Why? Because it's valuable. It serves its purpose. It does what it's supposed to do. So did the remote viewing unit.
So do you think with the remote viewing unit, maybe they just changed the name, changed the location, things like that?
They're supposed to change the name every 6 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They're supposed to change the code name
Yeah.
every 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be computer generated, because if they didn't do it that way, people would be calling it dying cockroach or, some other stupid name.
Right. Yeah.
They're allowing people to pick it. So it's done. It's always 2 individual words. Stargate is, when people say Stargate, like the movie title, that's incorrect. It was Stargate. And so that's, how those code names, it's Grill Flame, Sun Streak, Stargate. Those were all code names.
Stargate's a good name.
Yeah, it was cool. This is the movie.
So you're sitting in a room in a government classified building, I'm assuming, and they tell you, okay, go inward and look at this site thousands of miles away. What is going through your mind? Do you just sit there alone and then report back? What's happening?
You can have a monitor, but when you've graduated through coordinated remote viewing, you graduate through it, then they offer you other advanced forms of the phenomena to go work on. I did extended remote viewing. I was trained with a monitor, but when you become operational, meaning you're working actual intel targets, they kind of want you to work on your own, because monitors are another set of human interpretation and values and ideas and judgments and intended outcome that starts to take over your session and steer you around in there. It's really upsetting to have somebody, you're in an altered state of consciousness, an alpha brainwave state. You're an alpha theta crossover, right?
What is that? Does it feel like lucid dreaming or psychedelics? Like, what does that feel like?
Well, I don't react to psychedelics, so I can't share that.
Really?
That analysis. I have the gene that doesn't let that happen.
Is it the gene, or is it, do you think, a certain level of awareness?
You mean like I see that way already?
Well, no, maybe not necessarily like with like visions and you know, kaleidoscopes, but you know, they like Ram Dass became famous for what made him famous, other than getting fired from doing too much LSD as a Harvard professor, was giving LSD.
Him and others, yeah.
Right, exactly. And yeah, I can't remember the other's name, but the giving, like O'Leary, right? O'Leary, yeah.
Yeah.
And he gave his guru, Neem Karoli Baba, a bunch of LSD, and he's just sitting there like, was this supposed to do something, you know? And so I wonder if it's something like that.
I don't know. I know that there are studies that have been done that indicate that there's a genetic error or a genetic break, or there's something in my DNA that says that I don't react to that. And I never have. I mean, I don't react. I don't have any visions on ayahuasca. Big disappointment. No, I mean, like the first time I ever tried LSD was in South Carlsbad State Beach in like 1968.
Yeah.
There was a Hell's Angel guy at a big party on the beach that had a toy squirt gun machine gun that supposedly had wine and acid mixed with it. And he was giving people 3 squirts.
Was this while you were a high priest?
No. I was a kid. I was like a sophomore in high school.
Oh, right. You said 68. Yeah.
So, you know, I thought I had wasted $10. So.
So you've described seeing, because I was trying to figure out, like, what does it feel like? You know, when we were doing the blindfold reading, it was like very grainy. And then little by little, the more you trusted it, it would open up.
That's a pretty common description.
Is it?
It's variable. It depends on the individual.
Oh, okay.
And everyone has to discover what their own modality of perception is, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to be audio and visual, or just visual, and you don't have a audio? Are you kinesthetic? Are you digital in your perceptions? Are you olfactory, gustatory, combinations thereof?
Interesting.
Whatever you start out with, here's what I want you to know. And I tell students this because they're like, I really wanted to be visual, and I really wanted to hear and see what was going on. Yeah, everybody does. Everybody starts out wanting that. It doesn't always manifest for you.
Also, it could just be like you get words, or you get an understanding or a feeling.
Digital perceivers don't see the color red. They see the word red.
Oh.
There are other people that will have, instead, they won't see the color red. They'll hear red.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It just depends on where you are. Be grateful for what you have when you start out. Understand that you can expand and build and strengthen any modality of perception. And the tool used to do that is just intention.
Yeah. You've described seeing events and places and even people from across the world. Have you ever seen something that maybe was disturbing, or that you wish you would not have seen?
Get asked the same question yesterday, History Channel. You know, what was a really great target? And I just looked at the interviewer and went, I was working for the CIA.
They're not going to give you a boring target, right?
Well, they're going to give you a rogues gallery of targets.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know what the target is.
But was there ever something where you were like, God, I wish I didn't see that?
Yeah.
Can you tell me?
Yeah, Pan Am 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland.
What is that?
You are a young man. That was an aircraft that was blown up with Libyan explosives. Wow. Killing, 269 passengers. I think it was 88.
And what did you see? I was born in 88. So what did you see?
Well, remember, you're not told what you're looking at.
Yeah.
You're just given 2 sets of 4 numbers.
So they keep it very closed off.
You become discerning.
Yeah.
You become intuitive. You know what you're seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what you're seeing.
Yeah.
When you're looking and seeing 3 rows of people lined up, of course, it's like looking, if you're visual, it's like looking through broken green glass.
Wait, so are they saying, can you
twisted.
see it before it happened?
Yes.
Oh, so you're going beyond what exists right now.
It's all based on your actual point of where the perceptual conduits open is based on the intention of the person assigning the coordinates, which is always the program manager.
Right.
So if it's something that blows up in midair, they don't want you to look at wreckage. They want you, the intention becomes before it happened.
Wow.
Oh, well, we still see wreckage. Well, for the intention that keeps moving, right? Move backwards 5 hours, move backward 5 hours, move backward.
Wow.
Whatever time increments are applied to it, right? To slice through that event, the energetic representation of that potential that has moved through a collective global moment, and the moment for every individual on the plane, and the 16 or 18 that were killed when the plane came down over Lockerbie, right? All of those moments are there so that leaves an imprint of the event that moves off into a field of infinite probabilities again, potentials rather, right? So they're slicing back along, this event arc of time to get to the place before the event, whatever happened, and start describing there, and then move forward. They keep changing it and altering it and changing it, but they still don't tell you what it is. So when people ask me that, there are lots of examples precisely like that, and some worse.
Wow.
But you're going back and watching 269 people, if I'm correct on the number, being quickened.
You're at the level where of remote viewing, or I should say in the spaciousness, right? Because you can actually see visual. Are you actually seeing it happen? Like you're watching it back?
Yes.
And the people's reactions and what they're feeling, or what?
It's not like watching a television.
Okay.
If you want a good reference for it, have you ever seen the movie Tom Cruise?
Mission Impossible?
No.
I don't think I've ever seen a Tom Cruise movie.
What was it?
Minority Report.
Best remote viewing ever. Never trust the results of a single remote viewer operating independently of other remote viewers. Rule number 2 in remote viewing.
I've seen you say that.
So there's precogs, 3 of them, right? And what comes in is the visual of a crime before the crime has actually happened in the physical dimension. But look at what Tom Cruise is with his magic gloves, sliding these images around. Look at the images. They're fragments. They're not complete. It's not a video strip. It's, and they're gray and scratchy, and they're moving, and he's moving around trying to place them in a sequence that makes sense. It's the same thing for a remote viewer. You're getting a little picture of something, a little piece of it, then something else big flashes in. You got to capture that, and then something else and something else. It's kind of like looking at an image or fragments of images, for me, like looking through broken green glass, right? But you can make them out. And then you can sketch them. Objectifying is what that's called. And then you start to work, and it starts to get more complete. Texture is applied, energetics and surfaces and colors and temperatures and sounds and senses, smells, tastes, right? All of those things get in there. And then when you jump into the next level, now you start to get emotional data, emotional impact from that data, aesthetic impact from that data, intangible concepts, and more as it goes along. But they just keep, every time they go back to the customer and provide what was done on one day, 3 sessions a day, by all of the people working, well, there'll be a redirect. So now a new intention, same coordinates or different coordinates, but new intention.
So based on that,
cycle you back again. Cycle you back again. Now look, I'm a special operations combat arms officer as an infantryman. I was the only guy there ever recruited that had that background and credentials. I'm a master parachutist, ranger, pathfinder, combat infantryman's badge, all those things. I'm all those things. So I wasn't really torn up by that. It's unpleasant, right? For sure, to see it. And it also gets to the point where it's like, how many more times do you want me to, shoot myself in the hand with a nail gun to do this thing? But they have a reason for it. Now, somebody like a Lynn Buchanan, who's very empathic, he isn't really describing necessarily what he's seeing. He's describing every time what happens when that occurs to people, to human beings that get instantly turned from living, breathing human beings. Some die fast, some don't die fast, but he's feeling that. He's feeling the emotion of that.
And that would be considered
pain,
remote
sorrow.
viewing?
Yes.
Interesting, because I feel like that resonates. What you just said, this is good to know, resonates a lot. So I'm sure people watching, maybe they feel different things. And we just assume remote viewing is to see. But I resonate so much with what you just said. I mean, I could watch something on TV and I can feel everything that person is feeling when they're saying it, how they're saying it, why they're saying it, where, like, so to such detail that to the point, I mean, growing up, my mom would always be like, you're too sensitive. Because anything, I would just know what they're feeling, how they're feeling, why they're feeling it, why they're even saying it. And then I would get uncomfortable, and then if it was an uncomfortable thing, and then I'd realize, oh, wow, that's not me. It's them that I'm picking up. It's nothing I need to change within. I'm just picking up their stuff.
And that's one of the hardest things to teach a remote viewer that's working, in behest of the government, doing what they're doing is the kind of the phrase that I put together for that, at least with students, is it is not your job, your obligation. It's actually not even your right to bring any of that back from the session. I, of course, never send students to see things like that. But, then you roll off of that, and a week later, a training target might be Auschwitz. Why? Because they want to push, they want to drive up your ability to perceive high levels of energetics that are being represented. They're not trying to protect you. They want to see how much you can take and what you will be good at in your detect, decode, and objectify. They want to find out, what your modalities of perception are and how strong they are.
Wow.
Because when you start looking, it's like looking at a football team. They all have positions that they play. You don't pull a defensive end off and push him into the quarterback position. Swap up, guys. We think this one will work. They're looking for what you're good at so they can look at their team and go, well, these three people right here are going to get us good sketches, good dimensionals, good energetics, good detail, surfaces and textures, materials, etc., like those kinds of things. These people are going to be really good at pulling up the energetics, the emotions, intentions, intangibles, those kinds of things. So we'll work. Now we know who our players are and what they're doing, and we know what's going to be coming in. It'll all look similar, but the data will correlate that they're looking for higher in these areas or higher in those areas, et cetera, as they assemble the package.
Have you heard of the Monroe Institute?
Yes.
So I had in my planner, I was talking to this guy. He was a follower of my YouTube channel, came to one of my retreats, we became friends. And at one point I said, it was, I think in November, we were chatting, and I said, I'm going to reach out to the Monroe Institute and see if they have like any programs that they're still doing. Because I'm literally at the point in November where I have such little bandwidth to even Google, like, are they still doing programs? So I said, you know what, I'll do it January 31st. And I just wrote it in my planner, right? January 31st, I wake up, checking my emails, and I have an email inviting me to the Monroe Institute for a 1-week retreat. This was on the day that I had written to reach out to them.
I can explain that to you.
You can?
Of course I can.
Oh, please do. I was like, wait, either this is telepathy, either I'm putting out some kind of a broadcast that they're picking up, or, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong or any of this, or right, or there's some kind of thing where I've been pre-programmed to...
No.
Okay, so tell me.
It is something that's very much on your mind and it's part of your intention. And remember we were talking about the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't show the equation, but I can show you the equation defining a moment. But it's hard for people to grasp this because whenever I show it, it's in an embedded diagram, which means you're taking a concept that of 8-dimensional hyperspace and trying then to distill it down into 4 dimensions of physical space. Then you're squashing it onto 2 dimensions on a piece of paper and trying to paint the picture for people, which people rarely grasp it at first glance on it. But the idea is this: in the moment, you have for yourself an idea that you're going to do this, to go to the Monroe Institute. That causes a potential of an infinite field of potentials to fluoresce, because you have now made it your intention, either directly or indirectly. So how you resonate at the amplitude and the frequency with which you are resonating moment to moment to moment endlessly, because the moment never reaches zero and it never reaches the infinite. Time as part of the equation never reaches zero and it never reaches the infinite. It means that the moment is constantly moving. It's not moving along a timeline of that's the past and this is the future. It's moving in 8-dimensional hyperspace, right?
Oh, wow.
It's moving through dimensional space and time. Infinite potentials that are out there. You just caused one to fluoresce. And every time you think about it, every time you rework it, every time you might cause another neighboring potential to fluoresce. And what starts to happen is, as you resonate at that frequency, right, and amplitude, frequency is the number of times that you're thinking about it. The amplitude could be described as the strength or the power with which you're thinking about it, right? That causes, from the moment, which is constantly in motion, the moment now can start to link up a pattern of potentials, a pattern of them. And you can have, just think of all the things that you think about, all the things that you're planning about.
Well, that's what I'm thinking as you say it.
desires.
How do we know that one will manifest and one will, like, because I kind of said that so casually. Oh, January 31st, wrote it down.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, I will move to Florence, Italy. This is my dream. You know, no.
It's mathematically mind-boggling. That's why I'm saying, if you just wrote down all the things that you think about, just think now about the spaghetti strings of potentials, patterns of potentials that would be out there, crossing over, underneath, linking to other things. It's hard enough to get people just to understand the Monroe Institute, a pattern of potentials that are there. From this moment, there is an established understanding of probability potentials, of probability distributions. So as the closer the moment gets to a particular potential, right, the more likely in probability that it's going to move through that cone of probabilities and the moment is going to reach it. And that potential now becomes part of your moment, your experience in that moment. And then it moves out into the pattern of potentials again. The thing that people fail to understand is that you're in charge of the moment, you're in charge of the frequency that you're operating in, how you're processing the world, how you're processing your life, how you're processing your love, your health, your spirit, all those things with that understanding that that potential is out there. You're driving it to that. What can shift it? There's a thing called change distribution, which is the collective moment of the world. Something can happen in the world that it can skew you and your moment off that pattern of potential. So that potential now never is met by the moment, by your moment. So the collective moment of the world and the change distribution of it can slide that your moment around. You can't help it. But what you can do is, if you can regain your azimuth, regain your focus, regain your purpose and understanding, be back on purpose, be back on mission, filled with that. You now start to resonate again back at the frequency which you have set for yourself with the same amplitude, which means that the moment is now being driven. Remember, it's not a path, right? It's not yesterday and tomorrow. The moment is in constant motion. So can you push it back to it? Eckhart Tolle wrote an entire book but never shared it like that. And it's funny, people don't really understand the power of now. Some feel they do, and good, but that's what we're talking about. When we talk about manifesting, it's not like, oh, well, I'm going to put it out there that I want it,
right? Yeah,
and it's going to show up tomorrow morning like Amazon. No, it's I'm going to put out there what I'm envisioning. That is a creation of your own. You're looking into a field of infinite potentials. So whatever it is that you're imagining, you think it's out there. Sure it is. It's an infinite field of potentials. You just attached yourself to that. Okay? So you don't know where it is in this infinite field of potentials, but you're now going to resonate that. It's going to be part of your practice to amplify, to resonate, to stay in this way, to bring my moment to that hope, to that potential, so it becomes part of your reality. It's not coming to you. You're driving.
Oh, so you're not becoming a magnet for this thing. No.
You're a journey. Remember, you're in your individual moment. And the moment never reaches zero. It never stops. And it never reaches the infinite. It finds no edge out there. Time, which is the companion of it, never reaches zero. It's always moving. It's always progressing.
So when you say you're going toward it, you're not talking about through self-effort, or are you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're responsible. This is the whole message.
Because in that case, what self-effort did I do? Other than the person that invited me, actually pretty weird, because I wrote that in November.
You put it out there that it was of interest to you.
Yeah. Oh, and that's it. That's the self-effort. Yeah.
You just caused that potential and time to resonate because you put it out there that's of interest to you. You thought about it. Maybe this, maybe that, some thought thing. See what's going to happen. I'll do it. Not that time. Schedule's full. I'll do it, after this particular point in time. Well, now there's an imprint. Now you've attached a thought to it, energy thought to it, right?
It's interesting though that you say like mathematically is really a cool way to look at it too, because I got asked to speak at a Mind Valley conference in January. So I put that in my planner in November. In January, I go speak at this conference. It was there that I reconnected with an old friend who was the one who a month later invited me to the Monroe Institute. Yeah.
I mean, you can call that manifesting if you choose to. I like to use the story we just shared because that's what's really happening.
Yeah, I actually don't like the word. It's a triggering word for me. Yeah. Manifesting, especially because of what social media has done with it. Yeah. And it's almost like diluting spirituality to serve your ego.
It also divests itself from any sort of mathematical, quantum mechanical, explanation of what we're trying to talk about.
Right. Yeah.
We're trying to create a model, a map, an understanding of how. Am I trying to present it to you as an absolute? Absolutely. Yeah. As an absolute? Absolutely not. Am I trying to present it to you as an absolute? No. I'm trying to tell you that's a mathematical model to describe what it is that we're doing in the movement, in our journey through space and time.
Yeah. You've mentioned one of my favorite things so far that you've said here and otherwise is that remote viewing is this innate human ability. And of course, you take people to learn. And I want to know, you've talked about Soviets or, no, it wasn't Soviets. It was our government saying, there is no one trait, right? Like there is no one person who is psychic or special or a remote viewer or whatever else. What are the kinds of people that come to your classes? What do you see?
It depends. I mean, demographic back at its peak were mostly, the higher end, meaning the bigger numbers in the demographic were professionals like engineers. Engineers have a real big love of the protocols of coordinate remote viewing because they're engineers.
Yeah, but you would think they would be two in their head trying to figure it out.
Some are, most not. It's a conscious decision to come and to learn the protocols. So, and I reinforce that. You didn't just wake up one morning and suddenly have a second thumb sewn on your hand. And now you're all quibbled and misunderstanding of that. Now you're going to slam it in car doors and cut it with knives and poke yourself in the eye with it. I mean, the ability didn't just present itself to you. You actually are coming and saying, teach me this.
Which, by the way, is so important. I used to do sessions all the time for clients who were friends and I stopped because I realized, or I didn't stop. I'll work with a friend, but I cannot, they could be on the phone telling me their biggest problem and I will not offer a clearing because they need to want it and to make that effort of saying, I would like a clearing.
Good for you.
Or, you know what I mean? Like you need that step. I've noticed how important that step is, that you are making the conscious effort to sign up for something and to say, this is what I'd like. I'm ready for this clearing, you know? Yeah.
They will never move out of where they are and the belief of where they are and move to a place of knowing if they're just going to allow you to spoon feed things to them. So bravo to you.
Thank you.
That takes great courage and understanding to step back in. When you're ready, you'll come and ask me, right? When you're ready.
Yeah. There was a doctor who's an Ayurvedic doctor. He died in 2020. He became a good friend. He had been on my YouTube channel. We got millions of views from his videos because he was really interesting. He was a healer to Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama. I mean, amazing people. And I asked him, like, what do you say to somebody who doesn't believe, who's a skeptic? I mean, I didn't even ask you that because I stopped asking that question because this video is not for them. Don't watch something else, you know? But he said to me, he's like, when you're sick and tired, you've tried he'd say, don't believe. When you're sick and tired, you've tried everything else, you've given up, you've tried everything, then come to me. And that's it. Like, I'm not here to convince anyone.
Let me give you another good statistic and story, an anecdote you can use. Sometime in early 1980, in an airline magazine, I cracked it open and there was a CNN poll that was part of the airline magazine. I've never been able to find it again, but I read it. It was an American airline magazine. And in it, it said, CNN did a poll, 2,000 respondents. And they asked the 2,000 respondents, do you believe in something beyond the physical? 98% of the 2,000, which is 1,960, said, yeah. 2%, which is 40 people, came back and said, no, absolutely not.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, here's how my head processes that. That 2% is not my job to try to convince them to join the others. It's just like exactly what we're talking about. If you want to believe that there's nothing beyond the physical, that you are born into this life, live this life, eat, drink, and be merry, contribute as best you can. When you die, to dust you'll return again. And the part of you, the spark of life in you, your soul, your brilliance and intellect, it's all there, it just dies with you. If you want to believe that, fine. I don't care. Not my job to convince you otherwise. That's like, I might as well just go beat myself in the head with a rock to do that.
Yeah.
So what happens though is CNN goes 2%, 40 dudes, you're out of here. So they go back to the 98%, the 1,960, and they go, okay, if all of you believe that there's something beyond the physical, and I alluded to this earlier when we were talking, how many of you believe that in your lifetime you will ever connect with it, realize it rather, interact with it, contribute to it, or be able to learn from it? How many of you believe that? Notice they didn't apply any kind of spiritual box for it. There's no mention of God or anything else. Something beyond the physical that is unexplained. Do you believe you will ever realize it? You just said you believe it's there. So 26% come back and say, we believe there's something beyond the physical, and yes, we believe that somewhere in our lifetime, we will realize it, we will connect with it, learn from it, contribute to it. We will be part of that collective. The other 74% said no. Now, I believe it's there, but I don't believe that I will ever connect with it.
Wow.
Now, that is our mission. If we are going to change the world or transform the world, you have to be able to provide empirical evidence through the experience of doing, of walking, of doing work in the physical and the non-physical to allow that transformation to happen for them. Of course, your obligation is also 26%. But
I would even think maybe even the 26% is really the people to focus on, because they're going to now, when they have proof of concept and they've done the remote viewing or whatever else, the others will see, and they're kind of like leading the way, you know?
Maybe they will, but
maybe.
Look, I don't disagree with your thought. But they're low-hanging fruit. They've already said, yeah, man, I already believe I'm going to be there. Now the question is how is that belief now scattering to, let's just take psychic ability. I just had to comment yesterday on a I don't want to say the name, but there's a PhD that did a brain scan on a psychic, a self-proclaimed psychic, well known. And he did a brain scan,
I
EEG.
feel like I saw this. Yeah.
Yeah, did an EEG and then mapped it. So he said, oh, prefrontal cortex, So I'm asked to review this scan material, which is basically an EEG that's pulling up the Hertz rates of brain activity. And then he's mapping it because of the type of EEG that it is and the software it's being applied. And it's showing, high, it's showing gamma in the occipital protuberance, beta in temporal lobes, and the psychic being measured says, oh, I'm doing a psychic, I'm applying psychic energy here, and I'm also doing mediumship work simultaneously. Well, that doesn't even make any sense to me, but I'm not the person claiming that I'm doing it, right? So I want to get through this and I want to tell you the issues that I have with it, because this is where the 26% have a tendency to go, and rapidly. The thing that happens is I just said, look, you're telling me that the work is being done in gamma. Well, gamma is where you and I are right now. So I don't know about you, but if I were a psychic, this isn't the place where I would think I'd be doing psychic work. But that's just me being argumentative over what this particular psychic feels about what they're doing.
Because you get people into alpha, right?
Well, that's what I'm going to say. So when coordinate remote viewing is being done, two guys have been measured, Ingo Swann and Joe McMoneagle. Joe McMoneagle's at the Moreau Institute. And they were in a alpha theta bridge, back and forth. 1 foot, back and forth like that.
Yeah.
So what happens in that is theta is the detect mode, right? Even if they don't objectify it, that's what it is. Theta is descent outside of physical awareness and
theta. I think
judgment.
is when
it's not when you're not constructing. It's like
you're being hypnotized, though, isn't it? Don't they put you in theta?
That's one form of getting there, but
okay.
It's not what happens in remote viewing.
Okay.
It's a workspace.
Okay.
Extended remote viewing is done in the theta delta bridge. Okay. So you've looked at the whole spectrum here. I mean, if people are looking at work being done in gamma and beta, that's like, here's a good analogy that people can grasp. The work being done by remote viewers is an antenna. The remote viewers are antenna. They are detecting, decoding, and objectifying. Work being done in gamma and beta, that's like shouting in a microphone. That's what that is. That's deliberate construct, assembly, manufacturing that's there, which some skeptics will attack on that. I'm not attacking it. I'm just telling you what it is. So I was asked to comment, and I did. And what I said was, the person doing the scan and presenting it says, this is a breakthrough. It's outside of norm. Well, wait a minute. I mean, come on. What's norm? First of all, mediumship? What mediumship? Which kind of mediumship? There are 12 kinds of mediumships.
Really?
12.
What do you mean? Like channeling would be one?
No, there are 12 distinct, different categories of mediumship. And you can take any one of those categories and break it down, and have been broken down into maybe 3 to 6 more in each one of those categories, subcategories.
Wow.
Now. So what are we talking about here?
This is going to send me down a rabbit hole
Now
tonight.
you have and psychic ability. Okay. Well, that's not it is used as an all-encapsulating term.
Yeah.
ESP is the correct term. What kind of psychic? There are 85 different stated or perceived versions of psychic ability. So what are we talking about? If you are not what has to happen is there has to be a collective effort by the spiritual scientific community to have a humility to move forward, to understand that that collective has to categorize. What are we looking at here? And are the measurements different for men or women? Or are they same? But what is the delta? Environment, are there changes there? You see what I mean? You can't just sit back and say, oh, well, this was done. I did a EEG and I mapped it on some software. And I'm telling you right now, my work is amazing. And we've made a breakthrough and we are way past norms on this. I understand the intention. I understand why it's said, but it's foolish. And everything that we are doing, whether from energy work to all different kinds, like I ran down a rabbit hole last night just thinking about this for, people use a term like prana, right? Okay, well, how many different kinds of pranic energy are there? There's a lot. And let's go back to the definition of it. A life force that goes throughout the universe. Has it ever been measured? Has it ever been observed? Has it ever been quantified, characterized, categorized? Are we accepting it as it came from someone who first used the term? I understand the cultural implications, and I'm not attempting to negate it. I'm telling you how a scientist thinks about this. And we all, those of us that are teachers, we have to think about that. Because our objective is to change humanity, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't do what we're doing. Our objective is to change the world. We're trying to find ways to take this gift that was bestowed at birth in every human being, and find a way to use it.
Yeah.
Yes, in health and well-being and spiritual pursuit and connectedness, but also we want to transform people from believing in things to knowing things, because that is the most powerful condition that human beings can have to walk through this journey of life.
Actually, that takes me to that 26%. And it's because why I thought focus on them, you just reminded me, is because, yes, knowing is like the most powerful place we can be, right? But what leads to that is first you have to believe, then you get to understand, and then you know.
Right.
When I was, I remember the first time I did the Third Eye course, where I was going as a participant before I started taking groups of people. And I went to Germany, and the woman had us for 3 weeks leading up to it, every day, do our meditations and our affirmations saying, I can see without my eyes. I don't need my eyes to see. There's more to this physical world. Like, we had to believe first. So I wonder if there's any is there any foundational thing you've taught, 6,000 people roughly?
No, over 30.
Over 30,000? Oh, wow. I thought you said 6 earlier.
And I've trained, no.
Oh, wow.
I said there are 6 stages of coordinate remote viewing.
Yeah. But is there like a foundational thing that you have them all start with?
Coordinate remote viewing. And I do that not because I like it, because I really don't like it. I don't like coordinate remote viewing. It's dogmatic. It's a disciplined structure. This, then that. Right. If this, then that.
Which makes sense for intelligence agencies, right?
Right. It's, and I tell students in the beginning, this structure serves 2 purposes. One, it allows you to take, people with a professed psychic ability of a bag of hammers, and if they will learn this protocol, they will detect, decode, and objectify what can be usable intelligence information. Even if they have no idea.
In 1 week, like by the end of your course?
Yes.
Wow.
Of course. It was designed to be that way, right? It was brilliantly designed by Ingo Swann, not me, Ingo Swann.
The course you're teaching is Ingo Swann?
Well, it's coordinate remote viewing. He's the father of coordinate remote viewing.
Okay.
He brought that training protocol to the military.
Yeah.
Ingo Swann did, not SRI International.
Yeah.
So he brought that there and trained everybody who were in the initial group that went there. Some of them only to 3 stages. He had his reasons for it. And others all the way through 7 stages. The 7th stage was long since knocked off because it was a phonetic stage, which makes no sense to teach, and especially in the civilian world. It was designed to be an intelligence collection methodology. It is empirically driven, not anecdotal, and people struggle with that. It's not you just telling me the story about what you felt and you saw. You have to write it down. And then I'm going to bring out quantifiable attributes that I know are in that target. And I'm going to look at your session. And I'm going to look for your sketches, dimensionals, contours.
Because I've heard you speak, I know examples that you've given, but for our viewers, can you give some examples of like what somebody in your class would see and what they drew?
Well, I mean, you know, it goes from...
You're choosing random targets.
They're always random, and they have video feedback, and the feedback's sometimes 23, 24 pages long.
What?
24
from one
pages
person?
long. No. The feedback I'm giving them.
Wow.
It'll have links. They'll be shown a video. Then they get their written feedback. Written feedback has more video links. It has links to go learn more on the web. It has descriptions of, you know, the intention behind the target, blah, blah, blah. And it has upwards of 200 quantifiable attributes. Quantifiable attributes would go into these categories: colors, textures, temperatures, tastes, sounds, smells, dimensionals, energetics, tangibles, intangibles, emotional data, aesthetic data, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
And it will have a listing of 10 things, measurable, observable, that should be in that target site. They should be perceivable to you. Are you ever going to get all 200 of them? No. You might get 120. Next time, you might get 25. I don't care.
Yeah.
What I want you to understand is that what we're doing here is measuring what we're doing here, right? And by measuring what we're doing here, then I can reinforce for you this notion that we are not 100% accurate. The whole phenomenon itself is not 100% accurate. It never has been. It never will be. And you never trust the result. Why? So it just isn't. It's human interpretation. Remember, we shared with you how many variations of intelligence collection methodologies there are, and none of them are 100% accurate. It's not necessarily the technology that's involved. You know, a satellite imagery where you can read the license plate, or you could put down the LA Times and read the newspaper with satellite imagery. It's that good now.
Wow.
But that image is then what? It's interpreted by human beings. Every intel collection methodology is interpreted by human beings. Even if you ran an AI through it to correlate, chunk, and pull it all together, it then gets interpreted by a human being who presents it to another to interpret it again and again and again and again, right? And then you may pull up and say, you know, we have pretty good evidence that this group, Al-Qaeda, is going to fuel up planes and then fly them into buildings somewhere. We just don't know where the buildings are going to be. But we know that. And analysts at CIA did know that. And they presented it to their department leaders. Human interpretation. It was ignored or it was minimized. It didn't get up the next rung of the ladder. We just have to understand that. So I want viewers to understand. Don't ever stand up and tell people that you're always 79% accurate, because you're lying. And if you want me to prove it to you, I'll do it. I'll embarrass you with it if you really need that to understand what I'm saying to you. So don't make those claims. You might be 3% accurate tomorrow. You might be 25% accurate this
It's interesting though. Are there people that are doing that? Because I'm so the opposite, where I actually always underestimate. Always.
I mean, look,
even when I work with clients, I'm like, look, just because you've seen somebody has had this success with me, just know, like, every case is different. You'll get what you need. You know, like, I always want to just...
Well, that's because you're honest.
Minimize expectations.
Yeah, you know, you have humility in your approach to this. There are others that don't. And what they're doing is they're inflating things, because that's when you hang out a shingle and you're selling yourself as a psychic. You're trying to make sure that everybody understands that the money they spend for you to do some work is going to be money well spent. It's like the church again, right? So it's got this beyond the physical tie, but it comes right back down to the business aspect of it. And I don't mean to sound cruel or judgmental. That's not my intention. I'm telling you, it's just frustrating to me. I tell all of my students, don't do that.
Yeah.
It is not 100% accurate, never has been, never will be. You never trust the results of a single remote viewer operating independently of other remote viewers.
You always say work together, work together. Yeah.
Always as a team. And remote viewing was never meant to be a standalone endeavor. It was always meant to be used in consonance with some other collection methodology, investigative methodology, diagnostic methodology. How are we going to apply it? It's not some end all be all, none of it. And every human being performs in a cyclic fashion, right? Or in a waveform fashion. You could step into a class just as you hit your trough, and it's a 5-day class. And depending on, what your rhythm is of performance, you might do this for the 5 days in the class, while some other students in the class are doing this or this and then back up again. So the whole thing becomes a shared experience, which is why we collect data. Well, the students they put their session summaries down. We go through and put down clear acetate and capture sketches and verbal sensory data. We do it as fast as we can because we only have like 30 minutes. They're going to be back, and it's all compiled and, copied for them, because I don't want them judging the ability that they have in 5 days or 6 days on what they are doing in the session. I want them to learn the structure, and then I want them to understand that they're part of the collective. So when they see what everybody in the class is doing and how maybe their 5% now adds to the collective of a classroom overall achievement of 72% or higher, or maybe sometimes slightly lower. But you're looking at it and you're seeing bridges that have 2 peaks, like this, and a bridge here. You're seeing like out of a 20-person class, you'll find like 17 versions of that. Some people you'll just see something like this and water around it and something sticking up. So they didn't get the other part right here. They just got that part of the structure. People are cars.
And they got the water. That's pretty good too.
Cars, but it comes in for people in different ways. An island in the distance, an island in the distance, seagulls, cars in 4 lines of cars stopped. It's all this stuff that's going on. Cities escape in the distance. It's coming in from all of them. I'm just setting you up for one of the samples that I use sometimes. And the target's the Golden Gate Bridge.
Right.
There's 17 versions of a bridge by 17 different people that is showing the dimensional and the structural properties of the Golden Gate Bridge. Are you going to take any one of those and frame them on your wall as like a sketch of the Golden Gate Bridge? No, but that's not what the remote viewer is doing. Everybody has different sketch capabilities. Everybody is trying to see something with non-physical eyes. People get a glimpse of it, and then they're trying to capture it. They get a glimpse in the decoding of it. Oh, it's a bridge and it's red. And it's like this, but they're not bridge engineers. So they don't say, oh, it's a suspension bridge, with this kind of stuff. So they just are drawing the outline of what they saw. But it goes on and on. I mean, there are so many things in a 20-person class. I mean, just in the example that's pulled off, it was a class at the Crossings. So I'm just recounting that for you. A class at the Crossings, and I pulled up, there must be 28 slides that are just captured data piled on 28 slides that came from 20 people. The verbal sensory data is so much that I don't even go through it anymore. I just talk about the sketches. They can see the verbal sensory data. But in the class that they're doing, they get to see what everybody did. And they all instantly feel connected to that. And then you'll see them go, they'll say, I saw that. I saw it and I just was afraid to put it down because I didn't know how to describe it. That's fair. But if you don't write it down, it doesn't count. When I say objectify, write it all down, that's what I mean. But okay, so now you know what you did wrong. That's why we're doing it. That's what coordinate remote viewing is. It's empirical by nature. It's hard to learn the structure, but you see how the environment of learning is set up.
Yeah.
When that's done, if you're ready, then we go to another form where it's devoid of all of that structure. It's done in a theta delta crossover. It has a different protocol for it, much simpler, and it's more akin to flying through
Mm-hmm.
through the target.
But it's so important that people know also to go to you in person and take this course because of what you just described. Like the group is such a big part of this. And when we were doing our classes, so many people were, I mean, my videos had 10 million, 5 million, 6 million. Like these are, people love seeing these incredible phenomenons happening, but they'd be like, I want to learn, but I can't go to Germany, or I can't go to England, or I can't go wherever I was doing the classes. They'd be like, please do an online course. And they wouldn't understand that you just can't. I mean, I don't want to say you can't. Maybe one day you can.
Yeah.
At that time, the group was so crucial to the whole learning.
Yeah, Tony Robbins during COVID built this huge studio with this massive curved screen. And, obviously they couldn't do any of the live classes, but they did this big curved screen with this new Zoom. Zoom built a different platform for them where they could bring all these people in. And they had what it was doing was it would cycle, I don't know how many people would be up for each one. But let's say 2,000 people at a time. It would cycle their faces, their images.
Oh,
it just
right,
keep
right.
cycling.
Yeah.
And then all of the instructor staff, the trainers and other stuff, had access to their groups, right? They could see them in a different setup, and those people could see them.
God, what a huge setup.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the thing that's important about this is that when he used to have live classes, he would always stand up and say, there's 4,000 people here today, or 5,000 people. Typically, it was like, if it was 5,000, it was like 3,800 actual people there.
Right.
There are people in and out, but 3,800. When he did his first Zoom class, do you know how many people he had?
I don't know. I don't know if you're going to say a lot or a little. Oh.
23,000. Why? Because they could spend the money. They only lowered the price of the class by like $45.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I was
But
thinking
they
of more
didn't have to
people
get
because
hotels,
they can.
food.
Wow.
They didn't have to fly or rent a car or Uber or whatever.
Yeah, you're just at home.
You're just at home.
Wow.
Now, I've done it for coordinate remote viewing and extended remote viewing. There's as I'm sure you do, I love to interact with the class. And I love to be there for them in and around and help them. I like to let them come back from lunch and then I'll be there.
Yeah.
And I'll go over their session results for them to give that kind of personal attention on that. But I get it. It's expensive for them to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, right now I work with a JV partnership who his clientele, the money's not an object for them to do it. So, okay, live class after live class after live class. But, somebody off the street, somebody, that's a housewife or a jet pilot,
right,
for the Air Force, they're not going to be able to swing the cost of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Zoom classes are there, but there's something missing from it.
Yeah.
I've tried to figure out how to bridge it, but I can't really do that right now. We put a studio in the house that we think might make that better, but we'll see.
Yeah. I realized you told me about the kind of infinite potential idea with me having the Monroe Institute reach out on the day I was going to reach out to them, but then I never followed through and asked you about the Monroe Institute. As I prepare, I'm a month away from going. What are your thoughts on it? And maybe what is it for people?
The
who
invention
don't know?
of Robert Monroe, who was a sound engineer and kind of, I guess, DJ at a radio station at one point. Faber, Virginia, formed the Monroe Institute. He had a big belief in hemispherical synchronization. He did not coin that term. That actually was invented by, I think, it was a European audiologist, physician. Physician somewhere in the 17th century. And I could be wrong on that. Everybody check me. But it's way back. And what he did was he had a participant sitting in a chair, and he had these large wax cones that had to be supported at like 3 feet out. And they had one in each ear. And then there would be assistants who would hit different tuning forks that mimicked brainwave states, right? Were tuned at the same hertz rate, hit them and hold them in the coin. So you would get one frequency here and the other frequency here, hence the term hemispherical synchronization or hemisync. And the theory behind it is, because what would happen there is he would ask the subject, well, what are you sensing? What are you feeling? What's your physiology? Using words they would understand. But that's where that came from.
Got it.
So you, at two different frequencies played, you can create an artificially induced theta wave state or alpha wave state or delta. You can sustain it that way using it. Now it's put binaural beat in it. You could bury it into pink noise, which is a different hertz rate than white noise. Pink noise is easy to listen to, helps cut out background noise. Unless you've ever been tortured, we found out in a recent class. We had a participant in the class who was a hedge fund manager who, in another life, as an intel officer, had been held hostage and tortured with white noise and other stuff.
Whoa. So when you played it, it wasn't calming for them?
It was not calming for him. And he made a point of it. So I was like, we had to go back in and turn it off.
Whoa.
But yes, so that was the genesis concept for Robert Monroe and the hemisync and the Monroe Institute. When in the 70s, not only the contract was being let, but you had INSCOM with the remote viewers, in there. You had Bert Stubblebine, a 2-star general, also known as General Spoonbender. Okay.
Oh, wow.
He would be marching, 1,000 soldiers out of INSCOM. They would march them into the post theater. They would pick up a spoon or a knife or a fork out of came from the mess hall, out of these big brown tubs as they walked in. They'd all file into the auditorium, and then some guy would get up on the stage and walk them through a process to teach them how to bend spoons or forks or knives.
Oh, he was teaching people.
Teaching soldiers.
Not just doing it himself.
The soldiers of INSCOM, not him.
Did they learn?
I guess so. I've never been able to do it.
Yeah, how we've never seen this. I wasn't able to. At the same class in Germany where they did the spoon bending, I couldn't get it.
Yeah, I've never been able to do it.
Yeah.
But the first time I ever met General Stubblebine, he was Bert down, he was a civilian. And I walked in and I was introduced to him and he goes, have you ever seen my spoons? I was like, actually, no. He opens up a drawer of his desk at BDM Corporation, a Beltway bandit dealing in intel stuff, in DC. Opens up, must have been 45 spoons in there.
Wow.
He could have been Uri Geller. 45 spoons in there, all bent, twisted, tape with dates written on them, all that kind of stuff.
What?
Right?
Why is it spoons, by the way? Why is it always spoons? Just because they're metal?
I guess cutlery works best. I have no idea.
Yeah, I just thought of that. I'm like, why is it spoons? Yeah, can you do something else?
If it was plastic flatware, I could do something with it. But I don't know. I know everything about it and what they're supposed to be doing, but I've never been able to replicate the experiment.
Yeah.
So even with Uri Geller, who was a very good friend, I don't even ask anymore. But I have watched him as closely as you can watch another human being. Literally.
And there's nothing else going on.
8 inches. No.
Yeah.
There's no sleight of hand.
Yeah.
There's no blowtorch down one sleeve or something else, but he does it.
Yeah.
And I know that, there are skeptics who say, well, I can show you how to do it. I'm like, you're a magician.
That's
That
the big
doesn't
thing
mean
is
anything
just
to me.
because you can prove how it can be done through another way,
Thank you.
it doesn't mean that it can't be done this way. Yeah.
Just because you're an illusionist by profession and you see something done which you cannot explain how it's done, but you can duplicate what you believe to be a trick, an illusion. And because you can make an illusion appear to be the same thing.
Exactly.
Now, you expect the world to accept your version of everything, which is, I can duplicate that. Look, I did it. So now Uri Geller is a fake and a fraud, as is everybody else. So I don't know. I don't think any of those guys ever walked up to a 2-star general the size of Bert Stubblebine and said, I think this is BS. I think you faked every one of these things. When people weren't looking, you shoved them into the, into the crack on your drawer and bent it down like that. And now you're putting in I mean, come on, he was a 2-star general in the intel community. He got beat up for being General Spoonbender. So during this whole time, it's a new epoch, the 70s, in the Vietnam War. You have Delta Force, Task Force Delta Force, not the Delta Force you're thinking about. You know, it is a think tank trying to design the new army for the new era, for everything. That's when you had 1st Earth Battalion. Lieutenant Colonel Jim Channon, great guy, passed away. You had all these things changing. That's when you had SRI. You had a remote viewing thing in there. You had all this stuff. But while all of this exploratory work is going on, and Stubblebine is doing what he's doing, he's tapping into the Monroe Institute. Meaning he is taking people out of the remote viewing team, or people who haven't yet gone, or just people that have been selected, and sending them to the Monroe Institute to go through the training that they do there. It is not remote viewing. The purpose of Robert Monroe's training was to invoke an out-of-body experience.
Right.
That was his purpose. However, because they went there under INSCOM, you had Joe McMoneagle, who was a remote viewer. His number was 001, his first number. But the first guy to actually do a remote viewing session for the U.S. Army, for the U.S. government, was Mel Riley, who was 003.
Oh, okay.
But Joe McMoneagle went there.
Were you there at the same time?
No.
He's way before?
Yeah, he's way before.
Oh, okay.
Well, 4 years before.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
5 maybe. But what happens is Joe McMoneagle marries Robert Monroe's daughter. He then brings Skip Outwater, who is also at the remote viewing program, not as a remote viewer, but as a monitor and operations manager. So they're good friends. So now you have Joe McMoneagle and Skip Outwater there. Now, people of all these, FOIA documents that were released, there's all these mentions of the Monroe Institute and back and forth and blah, blah. The only document that counts is the CIA document that says to DIA and to INSCOM, no, they don't have clearance. Nothing that they're doing there contributes to the remote viewing program that we're working on. No, we do not authorize you to do that anymore. We're not going to take remote viewers and send them there because it doesn't do anything for what we're asking them to do here as intelligence collectors. But that's not to speak disparaging of the Institute or of the individuals I just mentioned. I get it. Joe McMoneagle just married Robert Monroe's daughter, brought Skip. Robert Monroe passes away. There's a big, huge effort now. We have to get people through the door. We have to spin the business up, right? So trying to get a government contract to bring students in out of INSCOM or the DIA through the Monroe Institute, I understand what they were trying to do. It's not faulting them,
right?
But it wasn't what a lot of people were trying to make it out to be. So you should do this because I'm certain you'll get a lot of stuff out of it. Plus, I'm sure that Skip and Monroe, McMoneagle will be there, and it'd be good for you to speak to them.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I have nothing bad to say about them.
Yeah.
They have bad things to say about me, but that's because
really?
Oh, hell yeah. I'm the guy that, burst the balloon under which they were all, quietly hanging,
Okay.
So they were pissed off, and I get it.
So you're kind of like, I don't want to say discrediting, but you're just shining a light on maybe what really the documents were saying, right? The government documents. But what about the actual, the benefit of doing something like that, going into a hemispheric state?
It's an individual experience.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's an individual experience, and experiences are good things to have, particularly in this work. They're not all going to, float your boat, but an experience is an experience. I say go do it because somebody like you is smart enough, intellectual enough, practiced enough to know that this is possibly something that might add another perspective, another tool in your toolbox, right? Another variant. And you're smart enough and capable enough and practiced enough that you're not going to let that tool muddy the water, right?
Yeah.
For
yeah,
you.
Yeah.
That causes you now to distort the work that you're most familiar with and that you define as your purpose, right?
Yeah.
So that's just an experience. Gather more wisdom. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with what they're doing there at all. And I would tell anybody the same thing I'm telling you, although some people, like somebody that comes out of the 74%, I would say use caution. You can overextend yourself in this stuff. If you've not, after in some practice that you've found, gone from believing to knowing, and you know it from an empirical, irrefutable, undeniable evidence that you are more than the physical, then if you start playing hummingbird with all of these different practices, you're going to fill up just about as much as a hummingbird does, which is not very much. So you're just going to keep fluttering from one thing to another. Pretty soon, 5 years down the road, you're going to stop and you go, Jesus, I've done all these things and I still have doubts about this.
A spiritual person told me once too, like that in the beginning, said, don't dig so many little holes. Have a practice and just go all in. Like get to the end, because there's a million ways to reach that thing you want to reach. Pick the one way and just go. Choose carefully the first time. And if you really feel that you have a connection with that, then go for it. If you don't, then get out. Get out and forget remember what you think is worth remembering and forget the rest of it. But find something that you can connect with that makes you feel good. That makes you feel like you're contributing in some way. Something that you're not relied upon to just share with the world anecdotally. Now, let me tell you a story about my, journey through ayahuasca. Now, it has to be, if I gave you an empirical measurement of your journey through ayahuasca, that you didn't just get together for breakfast the next morning and say, I saw you, that kind of stuff. If we really wanted to start measuring things empirically, you wouldn't talk about it so much anymore. It's an experience, but the experience is driven by the plant medicine. It's not driven by you. So I think it's amazing if people want that experience. I wish I could join you. I think it's a great thing to do if that's what you want to do with it. And one of my students, a dear friend, Dalton Locke, smart guy, does a thing called spiritual capitalism. Should check out his website. I mean, not website, his YouTube channel. He's a smart guy and does amazing stuff with plant medicine that he actually sells now. I think it's the MIT thing, which is, God, the name is of that root. Do you know? Do you remember? Sorry, looking off camera. Oh, you mean plant medicine? It's a kind of plant medicine?
Yeah, it's commercialized
Psilocybin?
now.
Ketamine?
No. It's a tea. It goes black, white, red.
Kratom.
Kratom. Thank you.
Geez. Kratom. Yes. Okay.
Charades here.
Kratom. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
So
a lot of people are taking it.
Yeah, he formed a big kratom company. And
interesting.
Does extraordinary well with it. But,
wow.
He was so hesitant to step in to the coordinated remote viewing. He was just like, what's this going to do for me? And I go to Costa Rica and I do all, I do plant medicine every so many weeks or whatever.
The thing is with that, you're giving your power away. I've done like 35 ayahuasca ceremonies. So I'm not saying this just from a judgmental place, but then and it's beautiful. It's given me amazing insights. I stopped doing it years ago because all the people, they would keep going back rather than now with my daily Kriya yoga practice. I remember my last ceremony, I sat up in meditation the whole time. And whereas normally I would have been laughing or crying or having a full experience, full meditation, 4 days in a row. And everybody was like, wow, how are you sitting with the medicine like that? It's not that I'm overpowering it or to say that I'm bigger or better or anything in any way, because I bet it could humble me really fast still. But it was more that I knew how to work with it now and I could sit with it. I knew who I was. I could sit in my own power, my own energy and learn from it. And it would show me something and I would ask, well, what is that? What are you showing me? What do I need to see from that? Rather than just fully succumbing to it. And, you know, yeah. So anyway, like in your remote viewing classes, basically you're giving people like Dalton, like the power, their own power to tap into that thing.
He was weeping at the end of the week.
Wow.
And then we did a hit podcast on his spiritual capitalism together, spiritual capitalist. And he was weeping again.
Wow.
When he went through this, because he changed.
Yeah.
But then he, kind of half angrily as a friend called me up, a month later or so and said, what happened here? He goes, I meditate all the time. I can't, because I'm getting nothing now. I'm getting absolutely nothing when I'm meditating. I go, I can explain that to you. I mean, you open the conduits and put up the antenna to be a passive receiver of information. And meditation is not necessarily designed to be that. The brainwave states that meditation is are in the gamma beta crossover, which is active engagement. You're directing, you're in charge. You're not just in an altered state of consciousness, detecting and decoding and then objectifying anymore. And so now, once you move to a place where you came out of that knowing, right? You came out of it knowing, not believing anymore. Now, could you go back to the meditation? Yes, certainly you could. Will it be the same? Probably not. Why? Because now you've spiritually, energetically, physically, neurobiologically moved to a different position. So your conduits of perception are open and expecting to generate over here now, not here. I did, Deepak Chopra and I were good friends for a long time, and we just haven't seen each other for years now, but we talked I did a lecture with him, and he's like, we gotta put something together. And you know him.
How he is.
So you know how he is, right? So he goes, awakening the divine potential within. It's like in 30 seconds he comes up with that.
Wow,
like, so we put all this stuff out, and I've got this lined up series of classes that we're going to do. And everybody in his, the La Jolla, not La Jolla.
La Jolla
he was at La Costa now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So at the La Costa retreat, there must be 200 and some people sign up for coordinate remote viewing because he endorses it. So here we go into the coordinate remote viewing.
Oh, I wonder if you look. This is the thing he was telling me about with you. Okay, so in 2020, I have a talk with him. I think it's on YouTube even. I don't remember. We recorded it. And he told me that he will often, from home in New York or wherever he was, La Jolla at the time he was somewhere, he'll like tune into his house in India to make sure that the staff is working and cleaning and doing because sometimes they'll just be like, yeah, we're clearing. He's like, no, you're not. You're sitting on the patio. And I was like, I don't know. Did he really do that? But now I'm putting it together, maybe he did.
Yeah. Yeah. He is such a good guy. But here are all of his followers. And remember what's happening. They go in there. They're hoping that the late David, who was his partner, or Deepak himself, are going to sit up on the chair amongst the flowers, and they are going to take them through a guided meditation.
Right.
They're going to drive them through that process.
Yeah.
Telling, yogic relaxation, breath meditation to get to this meditative state, and they're going to feed them. It's a deliberate, driven process conducted in gamma. They say high gamma for the real deep meditators, which to me is just juxtaposed to, a position to where you should be, because remote viewers are working on the other end of the spectrum, right?
True, because you're active. You're actually saying things while in meditation, you'd be fully quiet. But I've heard remote viewing tapes, or even like the Monroe Institute stuff, where they're like, there's now I'm on a ship, and the guy,
Yeah, that's actually a different thing. That's Pat Price at Stanford Research Institute.
Oh, yeah.
Being in a monitored session, not remote viewing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
In the remote viewing, remember I said you don't want to monitor because they guide the session. So if you're doing it, you're in this particular place and you're detecting, coding, objectifying. You're just writing. Okay, you're writing, sketching, probing, labeling.
But still, that's active. You're not You're not fully.
Yeah, you're in an alpha brainwave state. Okay, you're in and out of. You're going from from high alpha to mid to low alpha, back up again. It's called porpoising, right?
And for people watching, alpha is not. What state is alpha? Like Sleep, waking state,
Gamma
focus.
is highly awake,
Okay.
functional, cognating at that level. You're working, thermodynamics problems and, that kind of stuff, down to into beta, where you're still connected at that level, but you're in beta, slightly more relaxed, but still very much aware of what's happening. Alpha, then things start to close down. Your perceptions, you are aware of your environment, but you're going from up at 40, 30, 40 hertz, then down into beta, which I can't remember exactly, but let's say hertz in the teen rates, and then you're dropping into alpha, where you're going into a single digit at the low to a double digit at the high, and then you're dropping into theta, which are single digits. You're getting into delta, which is 4 to 0 hertz cycles per second. Okay, and that journey downward, think of it this way, is as you're moving the journey downward, the physical world is just closing around you. Yeah. It's fading out. It's becoming blacker and darker there. So the work then is done in a non-physical set of eyes and senses and smell and feeling and temperatures and everything. It's not aware of that. You can be like in the coordinate viewing room at the unit. It was gray carpet, gray walls, gray ceiling. The light rod that was up there was gray. It had, incandescent lights that shine down on a table, but it had a rheostat that the viewer controlled. So you could take it down to where they were just barely lit. There was a camera and a microphone, and the light on the camera was grayed out. So you didn't have that.
Yeah.
The table was gray.
So very little distraction.
no
color,
distraction.
Yeah.
I mean, soundproofing on the walls, and you would sit there. You had a pen stack of black pens, and 8.5 by 11 paper, unruled, no holes in it, because in that state, you're trying to get past the point of any kind of persistence of vision, meaning like if you had lines on your page and you closed your eyes, the lines would be there. You're trying to have the page there, close your eyes, have an image appear, and then capture the image, right? Do it that way. So that it all has its place, it all has its function, and it's all good stuff. And I don't say don't do any of it. I just say, and I say that to you because I know you're strong enough to swim in any water and still come out the other side.
And just do it with awareness, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I have a kind of like rapid fire. Go ahead.
The story I was trying to get to, it's my fault when I got off on track, was Deepak's.
Oh, right. Yes.
Deepak's people.
Oh, so they expect to see him on stage and okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, I'm out of here. And then it was me lecturing all day for the first day and half a day the second day, Q&A, and then doing stage 1, 2, 3 target. And then lecturing for stage 3, 4 crossover, stage 4 session summary, stage 4 structure, and then we do a stage 4 target, followed by another stage 4 target. And then the same thing the next day. So by the 5th day out of 6 days, these people, I could just see it in their faces. They were just fit to be tied. And so one woman raises her hand. Yes, ma'am. She goes, are we going to be doing this the whole week? Don't we ever get to just be? And I thought, yeah, this is never going to work.
Wow.
Don't we get to just be? Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You just, and I go, no, no, that's not what this is.
Yeah.
This is a protocol developed the way I told you it was developed for what it was developed. And you're learning that, and you're going to learn it and do these targets, because in doing these targets with a quantifiable, right, attributes at the end of it and feedback, you can see what you're getting and figure out why you're not getting anything, or ask me questions and I'll help you. But no, you're not going to sit here in the room while I guide you through a process and I start asking you
Because they're used to
things.
meditation retreats, like you
Exactly.
said. But you know what's really interesting about you saying that is it actually applies for anybody listening to a lot of areas of life. Because even with this podcast, for example, it's on season 3, so it's quite new. And I was, I'm comparing to 12 years on TV, but I interviewed every celebrity you could possibly imagine. And when I realized, when I've had just a few celebrities on this show, how my views are less than an episode where I'm talking about like psychic stuff or channeling or astrology or whatever, or aliens, because that's what the viewers came for. That's what they're looking for. You know what I mean? So you might think in your head, or I might have thought like, oh, well, I need these kinds of people to attract the viewers. No, the viewers are here for something very specific.
Yeah.
They know they can go to watch Good Morning America if they want to see an interview with Tom Cruise. They're coming here for spiritual growth, for awareness. They maybe work for Apple, but they know that they are having out-of-body experiences and they're trying to figure that out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I say that to say of like, yeah, sometimes it's so important to know, like, just because you have 200 people or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a good thing. It might be better to have 50 people who are so specific, they came here for this thing and they want it.
Yeah, and they need to have an expectation of what it's going to be. And they need to understand it's not going to be what Deepak does.
Yeah.
It's going to be something entirely different.
Yeah.
It comes from an entirely different place with an entirely different intended purpose and an intended outcome, which I repeat, it wasn't their fault. It was Deepak and I. Right. Deepak thought that because of where they were in their training with him, that they'd fully get this and embrace it. And some of them did.
And there can be, right? Like I'm a big meditator, but I still want to try these like things. I want to find the correlation.
But it was just funny to me. I mean, we did another one, and I'm going to correlate this, that what the experience with that was. My third book, which was Remote Viewing, the Complete User's Guide to Coordinate Remote Viewing, 431 pages on it, on where
you're actually teaching in it on how to remote view?
It is a manual, a training manual. It's not meant to be a standalone teaching tool. It's meant, we give it to people that come to the class, or you can just go buy it and read it and get familiar with it. And it gives you a cool down CD, that kind of stuff. But the funniest, the one I always mention, there are lots of really positive, kind, loving reviews. But the one I always makes me smile is one woman gave me 1 star. And so I read the review and she said, nothing should be this hard. I loved it.
Was she from that group?
No, she could have been.
Right?
That was kind of what, that's why I was relating the two. Nothing should be this hard. I could just hear her saying it. Nothing, 1 star, I had to actually write back and go, I love this review, nothing should be this hard. Unfortunately, a lot of things are this hard in life. So,
is it hard? Would you describe it as hard though? Remote viewing, is it hard?
Yeah, it's hard because it's not intended to be some free flow, share with me anecdotally what it was. The targets are specific. They're chosen very specifically. It takes, 4 hours to make a target. They're chosen based on kind of what's going on in the group, what they're showing up as understanding and good at. Oh. Then, the targets are chosen. The sequence is not chosen for the entire week. Oh. So this target gets made. So it's like a overnight thing. The target's made based on what the student's learning progress was here. And then that target's created. The attributes are assigned. Everything's pulled in for it. The videos, the other links to the videos, blah, blah. And so they see the video, which is never more than 15 minutes on the video, feedback video, followed by the writtens handed out to them. So they can then start going through it all. Accompanying with that is the joint feedback, the joint selections, extractions from everybody in the class. So they have that to compare to. The objective is, okay, now go to work. You thought you were just, I'm going to make it funny here. Or my version of humor. You thought you were describing Disneyland, right? And it was really, the Millennial Eye, right? In London. And that was the target, because that's a complex gestalt target, which is what I would always give you. It'll never be a feather in a box or a ball in a shoe or guess what's in my pocket or something like that. These are complex gestalts. Why? Because they're rich with target data. I have a specific intention for what I want you to extract from that. You know, each stage opens a new level of perception. The apertures open wider. So I'm gonna get a target or build a target that is going to be testing that. I push you into stage 4 where you're supposed to be getting emotional data, right? You're supposed to be in emotional data, aesthetic data, tangibles and intangible concepts. I'm going to give you a target that has stuff that'll fill that need.
Yeah.
Because you're going to start finding it bleeding over in stage 2 and stage 3. Some of it may impact. It's all going to be there for a reason. And then it's 2 targets a day. And that means you're in a session for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Plus the time it takes to do a session summary for each. So you come in, you get a target briefing, which is just simply, here's what's going to happen, what you're going to do. Not here's what the target is. Here's what's going to happen. 23-minute cool down. Come in, give them their targets, go to work. Stage 1, 2, 3, you're going to work 60 minutes. Get to stage 4, I'm going to give you like 70 minutes. Stage 5, you're going to get 80 minutes. Stage 6, it's going to be a 90-minute target. I'm going to break you out of the 90 minutes. You do 30 minutes of session summary. Take a break so you're not drooling when you come back in here. And when you come back in here, okay, now we're going to go to work. You're going to see feedback video. You're going to see the written video, the written feedback and the collective feedback. What are your questions? And, they're just reeling with that. So if you don't want that kind of an environment, you don't want to experience that, then stay away from me. There are other people that will probably do something like, I'll just train you to stage 3 or something. But no, because why am I doing it? Because I want the switch to flip.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. The classes that I took, I never put on these classes. I don't know how to teach them. The ones I took for the reading, it was so exhausting. It was like that. It was 5 to 7 hours a day of constant practice and work. Constant. We never stopped. They tried to make it really a lot of playful, fun exercises that just kept it fun. Like we'd play with Legos, we'd play with, all kinds of things. But man, by the end of the day, it'd be like only 4 or 5 p.m. and we would just sometimes skip dinner, just go to our room and pass out, clothes on and just sleep on the bed because our brain was fried, And even the people who were like blind and they could do this and they had learned and they were like the ones that we were all wanting, to emulate because they could drive cars, they could do everything, they could literally do anything, beat you in pool and poker, like anything. And even they said we only turn it on when we're using it and we turn it off the rest of the day because it's exhausting. Like it hurts your brain, I could talk to you all day. I'm going to end with rapid fire questions. When was the first time you knew that remote viewing for sure 100% was real?
3 months into the training.
The biggest mistake that new remote viewers make?
Giving up on themselves, never letting go of the outcome, expecting to be perfect.
One place you've remote viewed that completely stunned you?
Every target stuns me.
Can remote viewers see UFOs?
Yeah.
If you could train one historical figure in remote viewing, who would it be?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Okay, stump me there, picking from the human population. This is going to sound really weird. Hitler.
Why?
Maybe I could make him not a maniac.
Because remote viewing opens up different parts of you? Yeah.
Maybe it would have poured something different into a poisoned soul. I don't know. It just came to mind. If you're going to do it to change the outcome of something, then why not change the source of the negativity? If I had the ability to do that one thing and be sure I was going to win it or, accomplish it, that would be it. At least in my worldview for the lifetime that I've lived.
Do you think ancient civilizations utilized remote viewing?
No, they used, no. Now, it remember I said that under ESP and psychic phenomena, et cetera, that there are these 85 different categories. Well, one of the different categories is remote viewing. Okay. Remote viewing is not up over the top of ESP. So you can't, I got in dialogues with guys like this all the time. I go, well, I'm a shaman and I'm a remote viewer. Okay, cool. Where did you learn remote viewing? Well, I didn't learn it. I'm a shaman. No, well, you're not a remote viewer. You're a shaman. You're a practicing shaman. Yeah, but I'm a remote viewer. No, you're not. I'm a remote viewer. So shall I say I'm a shaman? Well, no, because you're not a shaman. Okay, thanks. See, now we agree.
Right.
You don't get to, why do people do that? Because, and you said it earlier in the interview, you said that when the remote viewing practice was exposed as an intelligence collection methodology tied to the CIA and the DIA, Stanford Research Institute International, it gave it credibility. It gave it lungs. It gave it legs. You can't quibble with it and question it. It was there. It served the nation for nearly 3 decades. And in my opinion, still serves the nation. So you can't ride on the coattails of that by saying you're a shaman or a trans medium or a trance medium or a channeler or whatever else category you want to put that in there. You can't do that. You're putting an ornament on yourself that you didn't earn unless you've done it. Because you're a lucid dreamer does not make you a remote viewer. Any more than being a remote viewer makes me a skilled or practiced lucid dreamer. They are different categories. And we have to we have to call a name. We have to call everything by its proper name. I didn't say that. The guy that died in the woods in Alaska said that.
I don't know. This is an interesting one. Is there a target that remote viewers are forbidden from accessing?
No.
So a remote viewer can access anything?
Yes.
Wow.
Here's the question now. I could send you to, the backside of Saturn, and you could come back with 50 pages telling me what that experience was like. It cannot be proven. I don't have any way to measure or provide feedback to what you're telling me.
Right, yeah.
It is now anecdotal.
Yeah.
Now, does it mean it's worthless? No. When I was training in coordinated remote viewing, the day I graduated, I was sitting with Fern Gavin and he goes, anything special you want to do? And I said, I don't understand what that means. Anything special you'd like to do, some special project. I really did not know how to take that. I said, okay, well, I guess you're asking me, is there some sort of target or something like that? He goes, yeah, something you want to do. Like he was tossing me a treat. Kind of thing. So I said, okay. Back when I was a company commander, an airborne company commander in Panama, I had a friend, Michael Foley, member of the church. He had some problems. He and his wife separated. She went back to the States. He was still down there. He was a UH-1H pilot, Army aviator. A couple times I came out of the jungle, he'd be the guy that picked me up and flew me out or in my company to get in other aircraft, but he would be there. He'd always look back and smile, red lights on, and I always knew it was Foley and his mustache. So I really loved the guy. He was an amazing friend. As I was a company commander, he gave me a call one night, and I could tell he was troubled. And he goes, hey, look, Dave, I've got a mission. Can't tell you where I'm going, but I need some help. I need a favor. What is it? I need you. Could you come and pick the dog up? Because I got to leave like in a few hours, and Cheryl's not here and she's not coming back. And I got the dog. I don't know what to do with him. I don't know where to put him or anything like this. And I said, Mike, I'm a company commander, the QRF for Sync South. I can't take that dog. I can't help you. I'm sorry. And I hung up the phone. The instant I hung up the phone, my heart cracked because I realized in a moment when somebody was trying to count on me, I didn't deliver as a friend. I left him hanging. And in my mind, I justified why it was important that I did this, my men and blah, 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 the mission. But I just left a friend standing there in the middle of the night, like 1 a.m., right? 14 days later, I'm in the Tactical Operations Center of the 193rd, and the radios are cracking over in the radio room. And I hear a conversation going on between our talk and Mike Foley. Mike's running the radios in his aircraft on this mission that I didn't know anything about. And the conversation's going back and forth. And I hear Mike say, "We have a problem, wait." Last words I ever heard from him.
Whoa.
The aircraft went down in the jungle in Ecuador. They're monitoring some border war, uninvited to do so. And they have never found so much as a rivet from that aircraft.
Whoa.
Never. Dave Suter, CW3 Dave Suter, Warrant Officer 1 Michael Foley, and a staff sergeant from the 3rd of the 7th Special Forces monitoring the radios because he spoke Spanish. It went down. Nothing. So here we are now, some 7 years later, and I'm sitting and a guy goes, "Hey, anything special, any special project you'd like to work?" And I said, "Hey," and I just relayed the same story. He goes, "Wait a minute." He walks out. He walks out to the file safe room. He's banging around in there, and he comes back in with a stack of remote viewing folders. And he goes, "Read these and let me know what you want to do." It is all the remote viewing sessions that were done in support of the effort to try to find the aircraft.
Wow.
And Suter, Foley, and the other soldier. Amazing work. At stage 6, the geospatial positioning of it and all the advanced techniques being used, all the official message traffic and radio traffic between Southcom, where they were located, where the 193rd was located, back and forth. And I said, "Can I go there?" And Fern goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You wanted to be trained in extended remote viewing?" He goes, "We'll go do it. You're going to do it front loaded now because you're going to know where you're going to go." So in the session, I am cooled down by Fern. I am given the coordinates, and Fern is walking me into the location of the downed aircraft. And I encounter Mike, and I encounter Suter and the other guy, and I have a conversation. And I'm there in the jungle, and I'm very much aware that they are not physical, that they are spiritual at this point. And I have the conversation and the experience and the tears and the emotions. And I apologize. He asks me to tell his wife that he loves her and he's sorry, and on and on. And because when I got to that place, Fern just let me go. And then we come out of it, breaks the session, asks for a session summary. I hand it to him. He turns around, hands it right back. He goes, "That's for you." Now, did I really go there and see that? Maybe. Did I really have that experience with Michael and Dave Suter and all? Maybe. I can't prove it, which is why I very seldom talk about it, because I can't prove it. If I can't prove it, if I have no empirical way to assess, evaluate, and present that, God, if I did, think of what I do with it. But I don't. So I have to be honest. I have to be scientifically, exercise some humility in this. So what was it? It was an experience. But it was an experience that freed me and it changed the physiology of my heart and my mind from the experience that I had had of betraying a friend and not being there for them, and then having missed them all those years. It allowed me that closure, and that changed aspects of me in the experience. So it was for me.
Yeah.
It was for me, not for dissemination, as an absolute or something I can prove, or I want you to believe in this, because I can't prove it. I know that. And as a scientist, I wouldn't even try to present it as that. But for me, it closed a door that needed to be closed on a piece of my life. I cherish that forever.
Which is what people go to do plant medicine for, to have that experience, that memory. Is it true that you're talking to the spirit of that person and this and that? Who knows? But what we know is that the people are leaving with full closure, with full like addictions from that trauma, leaving them. You know what I mean? It's like there's still a process that's happening.
Absolutely.
So yeah, beautiful. David, thank you so much. David Morehouse, how can people find your class, your course?
Go to davidmorehouse.org.
Okay.
Do not go to davidmorehouse.com.
Okay.
That website was shanghaied. I don't own it.
Okay.
I don't endorse the content that's on it. Don't buy anything on that website, davidmorehouse.org. Or go to upgrade, UPGRADETap. That's my joint venture partner.
Okay, we'll put the proper links in the description.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Believe that you really choose it. Ever since I wrote my goals down with the pen, my dreams and reality have both been blending in. I just hope that in the end, my debt don't extend me on my dividends if it did.